Chapter 560. Sister Yen. Chapter 560. Sister Yen, because of the woman being seemingly lost in nostalgia. Emo could only break the silence by saying, I got this bracelet from an antique shop in San Francisco. Trying to find the owner of the bracelet. I found my way here, Wait, what relationship do you have with this bracelet? Why did you try to find me? The woman suddenly asked. Because I also have one just like it. Then Emo took out his bracelet. Seeing it, the excitement in the woman's eyes became obvious. She grabbed Emo's bracelet too and stared at the two bracelets. More tears appeared on her face. Emo didn't stop her and just waited quietly for her to calm down. Who are you? The woman looked at Emo for a while before asking shakily. Emo sighed. I'm Emo. I come from Beijing. Yes, you're Emo. I know that you're really your father is Yi Kai. Your mother is Yi Qingqing. That year, you had only just learned to walk, yet now you're so big already. I should have long thought of it. Your eyes are exactly the same as his, the woman murmured, and even grabbed Emo's hand. Emo didn't speak. He didn't know who this woman was to him, but since when was his father Yi Kai? Emo saw that the eyes the woman looked at him with were filled with joy from the bottom of her heart. Emo's heart shook. How much love was needed to look at someone with eyes like that? The woman dragged Emo to sit down next to her and looked at him carefully. The care in her eyes was so explicit that even an idiot would be able to notice it. Emo suddenly felt warm in his heart. This was the first time he received such care. Qingxue gave him love, but that was different to this kind of care. Tell Sister Yen, how have you been all these years? Ever since Emo had said his name, the woman had never let go of Emo's hands. Sister Yen. Emo was confused for now, but he didn't intend to hide anything from her. He simply told her that he had been kicked out of the Yi family because he didn't remember anything after hearing that Emo had been kicked out and left to fend for himself in Ning Hai. Sister Yen breathed heavily until her face burst red, and she stood up cursing, You Wentian, you idiot hypocrite. Emo looked at Sister Yen in confusion, thinking, You seem to have been living in worse conditions than me in Ning Hai. But before he could say anything, Sister Yen embraced him in her arms. Although she was skinny, she did have quite the chest. Emo happened to be hugged into her chest, and the softness touching Emo's face made him feel very awkward, but he couldn't really struggle away. He still didn't even know who Sister Yen was to him. He had a lot of things to ask her, but he hadn't even gotten the chance to yet. Even Emo couldn't endure being embraced by such a beautiful woman's chest, and felt a little hot, just as he wanted to push her away. Sister Yen seemed to have thought of something and let him go. Her cheeks were a little red as she held Emo's face. You're big and very capable already. I can rest assured now. Emo wanted to say something, but Sister Yen seemed to know what he wanted to say, and stopped him. She just looked at Emo with fire in her eyes that made Emo even a little worried. That fire wasn't like the care of an elder looking at their younger generation, but more like the fire of a lover. Emo was shaken. Although Sister Yen was very pretty, Emo knew she had to be at least 40, and apparently she was an elder of his. After a long while, Sister Yen's eyes still appeared strange, and she suddenly said, I have masqueraded my face. I want to wash it and let you see me. That sentence was already a bit intimate, and Emo was feeling uncomfortable, but he still said, Sister Yen, I already washed it off. Ha! Sister Yen quickly picked up a mirror and saw that the makeup was gone indeed, and her face shone with a long-forgotten beauty. She touched her face subconsciously as tears rolled down her face once more. Emo didn't understand how she felt at that moment, but he knew not to disturb her. Then she put down the mirror and started asking about every detail of Emo's life, especially about Ning Qingxue, but she never mentioned her own life. After confirming that Emo was indeed living well, and that she didn't need to worry, she finally felt assured. After a while, She seemed to have made up her mind, and suddenly looked at Yi Mo sweetly. "Wait here for me, I'll be back soon." As she went into a different room, Yi Mo could scan with his spirit sense to know what she was doing, but he didn't. After a long while, Sister Yen carried a bag with 2 books into the room. It seemed a little old. Yi Mo just realized that she had gone to masquerade her face again. Indeed, if her face were to be seen, that would be a big problem. Yi Mo got up, and Sister Yen looked at him again, but the fire in her eyes turned into melancholy, and then into emptiness. Yi Mo was a bit worried and grabbed her hand, sending some qi over. She came back to her senses and seemed shocked at Yi Mo's qi. "Can you hug me?" Sister Yen suddenly said something Yi Mo didn't expect. Seeing Yi Mo's shock, Sister Yen suddenly smiled. "I'm the closest person to family you have. What are you embarrassed about?" Just then, "Didn't you dash?" Yi Mo smiled and hugged her. He felt she must have a reason. When Yi Mo embraced her, Sister Yen shook a bit, and after a long while, she pushed Yi Mo away. Although her face was ruddy, she had now recovered and smiled to Yi Mo. "These 2 books are for you, and I will be going." "What? You're going?" "I'll go with you then." Yi Mo understood she would be leaving far away. Sister Yen smiled. "My greatest wish was for you to be safe. Since you're fine and have such great power, my wish has been fulfilled. Since Yu Wentian, that bastard, is already dead, he could be called lucky. However, there are still things I need to take care of myself. I can't go with you." Yi Mo was dazed. He still had a lot of questions to ask her. He didn't even know how he was related with her. "I know what you want to ask, and I've given it to you. You don't need to worry about me, either. I can protect myself." Seeing Yi Mo's worry, she wanted to stay, but she quickly cast the thought aside. Yi Mo could tell that she had cultivated ancient martial arts before, but she wasn't very strong. She wasn't even at the yellow level. Yi Mo had looked at her meridians and knew that the cultivation method she used was very strong. Though, seeing Yi Mo open his mouth, Sister Yen stopped him yet again. "You don't need to try persuading me. I like going alone. After I leave, please look after Yin Jia and Yin Si if you can. They are siblings I found here." Yi Mo sighed. He knew that Sister Yen had made up her mind, and that there was no use in trying to persuade her. "Oh, and I really like your wife's clothes. Thank you. I don't have anything to give you, but that bracelet had been with me for a long time. I might have lost it, but since you found it, go ahead and keep it." "Well then, I'll be going." Suddenly her eyes turned red again. "Hold on." Yi Mo stopped her and gave her 2 jade bottles. "These are some pills my master gave me. This is called the face-preserving pill, and this is the qi-increasing pill. It can increase your power." As though fearing that she didn't believe him, Yi Mo continued, "These 2 pills are as good as the Lotus Life pill." "Oh, right, I'll give you one more." Sister Yen took the pills and nodded. "I might have been out for many years, but if I hadn't been sick, I wouldn't be in this state. Don't worry." Hearing this, Yi Mo realized something else, quickly took out a card and gave it to her. "There's a bit of money in here. Take it. The PIN code is all ones." "No, I can't take that. I have some savings. I know that you're not short on money, but I can't take it." Sister Yen pushed the card back to Yi Mo. Yi Mo knew that Sister Yen must not have much money since she had been forced to sell even the bracelet. There was no way he would take the money back. He pushed it towards Sister Yen again and said, "Sister Yen, it really is just a small amount of money, maybe a couple of thousand dash." Yi Mo knew that Sister Yen must not have much money since she had been forced to sell even the bracelet. There was no way he would take the money back. He pushed it towards Sister Yen again and said, "Sister Yen, it really is just a small amount of money, maybe a couple of thousand dash." Yi Mo suddenly felt something didn't seem right. With the bracelet being that important to Sister Yen, how could she have sold it? Sure, Kai-Jen couldn't have lied to him. So it must be that Lu Shan who tricked Sure Kai-Jen. "Okay, I'll take it." Sister Yen smiled and took the card. She thought that if it was only a few $1,000s, it was fine to take it, looking at her leave. Yi Mo regretted he couldn't stop her, but she had her own things to do. Sister Yen. Yi Mo couldn't help but call out her name once more. Although it had been only a short time, Sister Yen had given him warmth. The love she felt for him was from the depth of her heart. There was no faking it at all. Yi Mo was sure that even if he were a beggar on the streets, even if he were unimaginably dirty, as long as Sister Yen knew it was him, she would hug him without hesitation. Sister Yen turned back and smiled at Yi Mo, but with his spirit sense he could clearly see the tears in her eyes. Sister Yen, I live at Luoyu City now. If you want to find me, just go there. Yi Mo didn't know if she would, but he wanted her to. She had said that whatever he wanted to know was already in his hands. Yi Mo subconsciously looked at the two books. One was a thick diary, yellow due to the passage of time, and the other was an ancient martial arts cultivation method. Recognizing the cultivation method, Yi Mo knew why he had felt familiar when he saw Yin Jia. This cultivation method was called the Yi family Qigong. He had seen Yi Zifen cultivate the same manual as Yin Jia, so the two's actions looked similar. Yi Mo shook his head and put the book away. He really wasn't interested in that. Sister Yen probably knew that without some power, one couldn't achieve much in this place, so she passed the method on to Yin Jia. Yi Mo picked up the aged diary again, and as he wanted to open it, a young Chinese man in his 20s ran in. He looked at Yi Mo standing at the door and was dazed, but he soon reacted. Who are you? I'm Yin-Si's friend, Yi Mo said. Oh, then quickly go see Yin-Si and Yin Jia. Something happened to them at the boxing ring, and I came to tell their Ani Dash. Before he finished his sentence, he noticed that the youth at the door had already disappeared. He rubbed his eyes. Did I see wrong? How could he let something happen to Yin Jia and Yin-Si? He had just promised Sister Yen to look after the two, so Yi Mo immediately went to the underground area. It was the afternoon already, and the boxing ring was full of people. Yi Mo's spirit sense quickly scanned the ring. Annie and Yin-Si's hair was messy, and Annie's eyes were blue as though she had been punched by someone. Yin-Si's eyes were red, and she was holding on to Yin Jia. Yin Jia's mouth was bleeding, and the bones in his chest were broken. Yi Mo could tell that he was near death, and even if he was sent to the hospital right away, he would be paralyzed for life. But since he was already like that, why weren't they sending him to the hospital? Yi Mo was confused, but then Yin-Si's words made him realize the situation. Please, I beg you, let my brother go to the hospital. Yin-Si's voice was coarse. She had repeated those words countless times. Two black-clothed men were standing in their way. I already agreed, so let my brother go to the hospital, Yin-Si said. But the two men didn't have any intention of moving aside. A woman with a cigar in her mouth walked over and coldly looked at the three on the floor before slowly saying, You may have agreed, but your Ani hasn't yet. She has to agree too. At that moment, Yi Mo walked over and put a Lotus Life pill in Yin Jia's mouth. Mr. Yi Mo, it's you? How did you manage to come back? Oh my, this is great. As Annie saw Yi Mo again, she seemingly forgot that she had been hit in the eye and rejoiced. But soon she remembered the predicament they were in, and her face turned bitter. What happened, Annie? Yi Mo just asked that when the two black-clothed men started coming over to pull Yi Mo away, but Yi Mo didn't even turn around and simply sent out a kick. The two men were kicked away by more than 10 meters, and as though it had been previously arranged for, their legs heavily smashed into the corner of the wall at the same time. With a few cracking sounds, the two fell unconscious. The woman had wanted to say something, but seeing Yi Mo attack so ferociously without saying anything, she quickly retreated in fear. If this woman had come over, Yi Mo wouldn't mind kicking her as well, but she had hurriedly left. Yi Mo's actions immediately dispersed the onlooking crowd. Almost everyone understood this Chinese young man wasn't easy to mess with, As soon as he attacked, he had paralyzed 2 people. It was best not to mess with such a person. Annie looked at Emo in shock. She didn't expect the random Chinese man she had guided a bit to be this strong. He was almost a godlike being. She soon reacted and jumped up, hugging Emo's arm. "Oh, Mr. Yi, you're amazing." Emo was speechless. Her boyfriend was still lying right there on the side. Right? Insi also almost forgot about her brother too as she looked at Emo in a daze, but she soon remembered that her brother needs to be sent to the hospital immediately. "Your brother is fine. Don't touch him, and let him lay still for a while," Emo said. "Huh?" Si knew how badly injured her brother was, and she couldn't just believe Emo when he said Jia would be fine, but she soon stopped her doubt. Jia was already opening his eyes, and the blood stopped flowing from his head. A scab was even already forming. Si couldn't believe her eyes. "I'm fine," Jia said, seeing his sister's worried face. Jia, you're fine now." Annie realized that she still had a boyfriend and quickly went to help him. "Hey you might be strong, but if you think you can do whatever you want just because you have some power, you're wrong. This place is easy to enter, but not so easy to leave." A skinny man walked in and said coldly, "Brother Do." As soon as the man appeared, almost everyone greeted him. Emo shook his head. A yellow-level primary stage guy dared be cocky in front of him, who said, "I'm leaving. I'm not finished here yet. How could I leave?" Emo smiled coldly and walked in front of this Brother Do. Suddenly, he reached his hand and grabbed Brother Do's neck as he flung him up. Brother Do's face bursted red. He didn't think the day something like this happened to him would come. He couldn't resist at all. Everyone around them was shocked. Emo kicking away those 2 men wasn't much, but holding Brother Do by the neck was absurd. Who was Brother Do? The #1 master in Mexica. Even Edward feared him a little bit. Yet in front of this young man, he was worse off than a chicken. The boisterous boxing ring fell silent. Emo waved his hand and threw Brother Do out. "Don't worry, it'll be a good while before I leave." Chapter 562. Who set them up? Chapter 562. Who set them up? Brother Do had been thrown into a garbage can, so he looked at Emo in shock. He knew that, although his power was the greatest in town, in the eyes of real ancient martial artists, he was the weakest of them. Yet the young man had easily grabbed his neck, and he hadn't even been able to move. He knew that the young man was at least at black level or above. The master who had taught him ancient martial arts said that black-level martial artists were usually in the hidden sects, and they didn't come out, so it was unlikely to meet them. But if he did, then he must not offend them, because in their eyes other people's lives were worthless, like insects. They could kill him at any time. Brother Do, who had been acting cocky before, started to have cold sweat. He knew that he had been at death's door. If the young man wanted to kill him, he would have been long dead. Those who had wanted to suck up to Brother Do stopped in their tracks and retreated. Even the fighters on the stage stopped. Those who had come there all knew about Brother Do. He was called Do Yuezhu since the moment he started coming there 5 years ago. He has beaten every single fighter there. No one was a match for him. Hence, the boxing ring's boss Jim hired him as the #1 fighter for the ring. He even had his share in it. Do Yuezhu struggled out of the rubbish bin. He didn't even bother wiping the trash off his body, and just quickly walked to Emo. The woman with a cigar in her mouth ran to Do Yuezhu and said quickly, "Brother Do, I'll go get some more men. This kid is too cockdash. Piss off." Before she had finished, Do Yuezhu slapped her in the face. She spinned on the spot before falling down. Although Do Yuezhu had pain all over his body, he knew that the young man hadn't hit him with a lethal blow, or he wouldn't be able to stand now. Qianbei, Wanbei Do Yuezhu was too blind to see Mao Tai. "I deserve to die for offending you. Other than a few smart people, everyone thought Do Yuezhu had gone up to Emo to fight him again, so what he said shocked them all. Everyone could tell that Brother Do was scared. Even Brother Do fears him. Who is this young Chinese man? Is he here to open a new ring so he came to ruin this one? Someone said carefully, Are you an idiot? Can't you see he's here for that young man on the ground? Moreover, Annie knows him. Someone rebuked. Yemo scanned Do Yuezhu coldly. He had some wits and knew that he needed him to do something. If he hadn't come over immediately, Yemo would have thrown a wind blade at him. The reason Yemo didn't kill this brother Do was because he felt something wasn't right. Yin Si and Yin Jia were just average people in Chinese backstreet. Even if Yin Jia had lost, why would they be stopping him from going hospital? Yin Si was pretty, but not to the extent of them wanting to coerce her into submission. However, from what they said, their target was Sister Yen. Seeing Yemo not talk, Do Yuezhu got more anxious. Luckily, Yemo didn't make him wait for long before saying coldly, Find a place for Yin Jia to rest. Take me to your boss. He's very bold. Yes, Do Yuezhu was fine with it. Of course. Yemo then said to Annie and Yin Si, Annie, you and Yin Si taking Jia home to rest. He should be fine now. I'll go do some business, and then I'll look for you guys. Don't worry, no one will dare do anything to you here. Thank you, Brother Yi. Yin Si quickly got up to thank Yemo. Okay. Brother Yi will wait for you, Annie said. Then Yemo followed Do Yuezhu to a luxurious office. As soon as they got to the door, a fat white man approached them shakily. It seemed like he had gotten the news and wanted to come and see. The fat man walked up to Yemo and Do Yuezhu and said in Chinese, Honorable Boxing King, you're my real VIP. I'm Jim. The dash, Yemo, kicked him in his fat stomach, and Jim was thrown many meters away, crashing into a chair. The two bodyguards immediately raised their guns, but before they could make a movement, Yemo had thrown two wind blades, and their hands had been cut off. No, stop. Jim kept waving his hand. He wasn't as ignorant as other people. Do Yuezhu cultivated ancient martial arts and had told him some things. Although he found it hard to believe, he knew that in China there was a small group of people who were really strong and disregarded the law. The two bodyguards were laying on the floor. Do Yuezhu was sweating even more. He hadn't clearly seen Yemo use any projectiles nor hack the two bodyguards' arms off, but he didn't dare to believe his conjecture because he had never seen anyone who was able to use his chi to slice someone's arm off from that far. Yemo walked up to Jim and kicked him far away again. Yemo then walked up to Do Yuezhu and said, Do Yuezhu, I didn't kill you. I know you're a smart man. I won't say it again. Tell me why you have a problem with Yin Jia. Even when Yin Si agreed to your request, why didn't you let them go? Remember one more lie, and I will kill you. Yes, I understand, Do Yuezhu said. It's because Ross at the hotel restaurant said he wanted Yin Jia's life, and then make Yin Si and her auntie find him. I don't know why specifically. Jim took the job, and I was just there to guard the ring. It has nothing to do with me. Do Yuezhu wanted to keep calm, but the thought of Yemo's invisible projectile haunted him. Yemo looked coldly at Jim, but before he said anything, Jim started crying. Qianbei, this has nothing to do with me. Jim wanted to find an excuse, but he couldn't. Yemo kicked him on the head and said coldly, Call that Ross, and the person who beat Yin Jia over immediately. Yes, Jim could utter anything else. Yemo frowned. At the restaurant, he had already seen Edward and Ross set them up. Although Yemo didn't know why Ross had a grudge against the Yin siblings, that woman had said Sister Yen must come. Were they targeting Sister Yen? If so, why not just abduct her? Yemo was sure they could do that in this town. Yemo didn't have to wait long before some Chinese man, and Lu Luosi arrived. Yemo didn't have to wait long before some Chinese man, and Lu Luosi arrived. Do Yuezhu closed the door as he saw the intense killing intent in Yemo's eyes. He knew what Yemo was thinking, and the only way to save his life now was to please Yemo. Yemo looked at the Chinese man and asked coldly. "You're the one who beat Injia? Who are you?" "Brother Do, what's this?" The man saw Jim sitting on the ground, and Do Yuezhu being so reverent towards the unknown young man, and frowned. But Do Yuezhu didn't even look at him. So the man felt something was up, and thus replied to Yemo, "That's right, I beat Injia." Mr. Edward ordered dash. Yemo didn't even bother listening to the rest of his explanation, and said to Do Yuezhu, "Kill him." Do Yuezhu hadn't expected Yemo to make him kill the man, but nonetheless, he walked up to the man and sent out a punch. The man didn't expect at all that Do Yuezhu would suddenly kill him. Even if he had, he was no match for Do Yuezhu anyway. He could only stare in shock as Do Yuezhu's punch landed on his heart. He felt like his heart had been smashed by a hammer and exploded. He looked at Do Yuezhu while he fell down, as he didn't die right away, and said, "You dare kill me? I'm one of Edward's men. You dash." Do Yuezhu was expressionless. He had to save his own life now. Even if he had to kill Edward himself, he wouldn't hesitate for a bit. Ross had understood that the situation wasn't good as soon as he came in. Looking at Yemo, who sat at the top, his heart skipped beats left and right. Hadn't Yemo been taken away by Edward? Why was he here? "Do Yuezhu, you dare kill my nephew? He's Edward's underling, you." Ross was very angry. The reason why he had goyed relations with Edward was because his nephew was such a capable fighter and helped Edward with a lot of his business. Ross was furious, yet what he saw was Do Yuezhu looking down as though he hadn't heard his words. Ross's voice died down. He finally understood the gravity of the predicament was in. As long as this young Chinese man ordered it, Do Yuezhu would be killing him next. "How can you be here?" "Mr. Edward." How could he dash? Ross suddenly shivered. He felt cold. He felt like he was missing something important. There was an intense feeling of uneasiness in his heart. "Edward? I killed him, of course." Yemo's words paralyzed Ross. That was probably true. Otherwise, how could he have escaped Edward? If he could kill even Edward, then what about him? Ross started sweating heavily. Do Yuezhu didn't dare say a thing. He didn't expect this young man to have even killed Edward. This god of slaughter made him extremely scared. If the young man was planning on killing everyone before he left, how could he survive? "Tell me, why do you have a problem with Insi and Injia?" "This is your only chance to explain," Yemo's cold voice sounded. I'll say it. So please have mercy on me, Qianbei. All my money is yours too, dash." Ross knew his life was no longer in his own control. "You talk too much garbage." Do Yuezhu cut off one of his legs. As soon as Yemo spoke, Do Yuezhu pulled out a dagger and sliced off one of Ross's leg. Then Do Yuezhu helped Ross stop the bleeding and seal the wound. Yemo nodded. This Do Yuezhu did things well. He knew that Yemo still had to question Ross, and didn't let him faint. Ross was extremely fraught. He knew it was best not to talk conditions with the young man in front of him. "Are you still going to talk CR *P's? Yemo's cold voice sounded again. I'll talk. My original name is Lu Luosi, and I used to love in Chinese backstreet in the past dash. Get to the point." Yemo slammed the tea table. Yes. Lu Luosi shivered and quickly said, "One day, I asked Insi to help me with something. I came to her house and found that both Insi and Injia weren't there, but I saw Insi's Ani as she washed off the makeup on her face, and I saw that she was a rare beauty. I was sure that I'd never seen a woman as pretty as her before. For the first time, I fell in love with a woman. But then, I found out that she rarely came out, afraid of people recognizing her. I didn't dare startle her in any way, but ever since that day, I couldn't calm down either." Lu Huosi seemed to have forgotten about his predicament, and continued, "I used to be an assistant in a painting workshop, so I drew her according to my memory, but I knew that the painting didn't represent even 1,000th of her true beauty. On that day, I swore that I would earn money, lots of it, and then give it all to Zani, and marry her. Humph! A pig like you dared think of marrying Sister Yen, Yi Mo said in contempt, but Lu Luosi didn't seem to hear that. Then, my opportunity to earn money came. The brother of Annie's dad came from Hong Kong to this town, wanting to find Annie's father, and he asked me for help. I saw him take out large sums of money, so me and my nephew abducted him, interrogated him about his bank account, and killed him. Lu Luosi's voice had turned dark, resembling a demon from hell, but he still continued unknowingly. With that, I had gathered my first 2 million and wanted to start the restaurant hotel. That's when I found out that money alone wasn't enough to survive in this town. At first, I couldn't even open my hotel for a single day, so I had to join Edward, and my nephew became his hitman. But Edward leached on me too much. He took half of my profit each month. So after all the extra expenditures, I didn't have much left. Luckily, Edward was very lustful. One day, he told everyone that if someone could find a woman like Marilyn Monroe, he would give that person half his wealth. I immediately thought of Zani. In my eyes, she was actually much prettier than Marilyn Monroe. Ross's expression became much softer, but to others, it would just look creepy. I said that perhaps I could actually find such a woman. Edward took me seriously and immediately said that if I could fetch the woman I had in mind and make her willingly stay with him, he would give me a manor. But I didn't want that. I knew his character all too well. Even if he did give it to me, I wouldn't be able to enjoy it for long. When I took out the painting I had drawn of her, Edward was immediately interested. I said that all I wanted was to be able to keep all of the profit of my hotel. Edward agreed without hesitation. Slap Yi Mo slammed the table. Animal, you just said that you were going to earn money for Sister Yen, yet now you're saying you were going to give her to someone else? Garbage! Yi Mo's roar pulled Lu Luosi back to reality, and he quickly said, I just wanted to earn my first big money like that, then gradually take over Edward's businesses, and eventually kill him. Then I would be able to make Zani happy. Yi Mo and Do Yuezhu now understood what sort of a person Lu Luosi was. He was patient but cruel. Cut off his limbs and kill him. Yi Mo waved his hand to Do Yuezhu. Yi Mo didn't have any questions left to ask of such an evil person. Chapter 564. To Luoyu City. Chapter 564. To Luoyu City, I have money, and I can give you all of it, so please. Lu Luosi begged. But even Do Yuezhu had been shocked by Lu Luosi's calculations and ambitions. So with Yi Mo's order, he wasn't going to let Lu Luosi live no matter what. He quickly cut off Lu Luosi's limbs, and then stabbed his heart. Yi Mo was happy with Do Yuezhu's quick actions and looked at Jim, who was still sitting on the ground. Jim knew it was his turn. He said with a stutter, Chimbe, I have money too, a lot of it, and I'll give it all to you, Dash. Yi Mo said to Do Yuezhu, bring Jia's and Annie's bank cards. Yes, Do Yuezhu rejoiced. He knew that his live was spared now. A moment later, Do Yuezhu brought their cards. Although Annie and company didn't know why Yi Mo wanted them, they didn't object. If Yi Mo had told him to get it, they had no reason to object. And if Yi Mo didn't, then they had no power to object. How much money do you have? Yi Mo looked at him and said coldly, I have 19 million in available funds. Jim couldn't care less about his money now. He just wanted to live. Yi Mo dumped 3 cards in front of him and said coldly, transfer 6 million to each as fast as you can. 1 cent less, and you die. You can keep the remaining million for your retirement. Jim rejoiced, not about the million, but about the word retirement. That meant that he wasn't going to be killed. He still had a lot of assets anyway. Jim did as told as fast as he could. Yi Mo oversaw the wild procès, and it all went perfectly. Then Yi Mo scanned Jim and said, you can call the police, but an hour after you do, will be the time you enter heaven. If you want to go to heaven, call ahead. Oh, no, of course not. Xianbei, I won't call the police. Jim waved his hand. He wasn't an idiot. Even Edward had been killed, so there was clearly no use in calling the police. And aren't you a Chinese man? It's fine that you didn't help your fellow Chinese actively, but you actually abused them. I would have wanted to kill you, but considering how you did what was necessary, I'll let you go this once. Yi Mo scanned Dou Yuezhu and walked out of the room. Despite saying that, Yi Mo knew that this wasn't something he could change. There were so many Chinese here, there would be countless people like Dou Yuezhu. Yes, yes. Dou Yuezhu had been sweating terribly, and finally he could sigh in relief. I'm done. Let's go. Yi Mo stood outside the room of the three waiting for him and called out. Annie was holding Yin Jia and didn't say anything. When Yi Mo gave them their cards back, though, Yin Si asked, Brother Yi, you took our cards so that they would pay us compensation? Yi Mo smiled. Yes, I made Jim compensate you guys. Oh, God, Mr. Yi, no, Brother Yi, you're really kind. Annie quickly brushed past Yin Si and rushed in front of Yi Mo, wanting to kiss him on the face, but Yi Mo predicted it and dodged her. Annie didn't mind and quickly ran to a nearby ATM. A few moments later, she screamed so loud she scared some nearby people away. What's wrong, Annie? Yin Si and Yin Jia ran over. Oh, God, I'm not seeing things, am I? There are 6 zeros. This is 6 million USD. I'm a millionaire. She had gone from 0 to 6 million. What? 6 million? Yin Si and Yin Jia were also shocked. Yi Mo gave Annie 6 million? Did he like her? Or something? Yin Jia also inserted his card and was shocked all the same. He also had 6 million. Seeing that, Yin Si couldn't resist and also checked her card. There was 6 million on it too. That was 18 million altogether. For a long while, the three stood still in a daze. Then Yin Jia said, Ani can go back now. Let's go tell Ani quickly. Yes, Ani can go back. Yin Si's hand was shaking. 6 million. That was a huge amount of wealth, and it had simply appeared in front of them out of nothing. She suddenly thought of Yi Mo and quickly walked up to him and handed the card back. Brother Yi, that's too much money. We don't dare take it. Yi Mo pushed the card back. Take it. Also, I have some things to tell you guys later. Although they properly accepted the cards afterwards, they still couldn't control their excitement. They went back to their house with Yi Mo. Where's Ani? Yin Si was the first to notice that her Ani wasn't there. She rarely went out. How come she had gone out that day without telling them? Do you know that your Ani is different from ordinary people? Yi Mo asked Yin Jia and Yin Si. Yin Jia shook his head obliviously, but Yin Si looked down, not saying anything. Yi Mo could tell that Yin Si knew that Sister Yen had been hiding her real looks, but apparently she hadn't told anyone. Since she knew, Yi Mo didn't ask further and said, Your Ani and I are dash. Yi Mo thought for a long time, but didn't know what to say. He could only say, You just need to know that she's my family. Having finally found her, I already cured her. She had business to take care of, though, so she left. However, before she left, she told me to look after you guys. If you're willing to come with me, leave with me today. Ani left. Yin Jia and Yin Si asked at the same time. Yi Mo nodded but didn't explain. Now it was up to Yin Si and Yin Jia to decide. Even if they didn't go with him, they could live comfortably with 6 million, but Chinese back street really wasn't a place for staying long. Yin Si was sure that Yi Mo wasn't lying to them. If he had something to lie about, he wouldn't have had to give each of them $6 million. Yin Jia and Annie could only look at Yin Si now. Although she was only a few years older, she was the best person to make the decision. Brother Yi, we know very little of the world. Ever since I was 10, Jia and I have been living with Ani. Ani even gave us our names. Without her, we wouldn't be alive. Since Ani told us to go with you, we'll go with you. Insi didn't know what to do either, but she knew that they couldn't stay there. Yi Mo thought of that diary Sister Yen had given him. He didn't have time to look at it before. He opened it now and found a letter for Insi and Injia inside. Yi Mo breathed out in content. With that, they should firmly believe him. Insi took the letter and looked at it. She nodded. Yi Mo wasn't lying to them. Her Ani had left that letter for them, and in it, she told them to go with Yi Mo. Annie looked at Insi and Injia. What would she do after they left? Where are you guys going? Annie asked worriedly. Insi and Injia looked expectantly at Yi Mo. They didn't know where they would be going either. We are going to Luoyu City, Yi Mo said. What? Luoyu City? The three screamed at the same time. Chapter 565, New Radar System. Chapter 565, New Radar System. Annie, what are you planning on doing? Yi Mo looked at Annie. He didn't know whether she'd be willing to go with them. Annie, come with us. You can't stay here anymore, Insi quickly said. Annie looked conflicted. But my dad. After Insi explained it, Yi Mo understood that Annie's dad was an alcoholic and had drunken the family into bankruptcy. Yi Mo shook his head and said, go explain the situation to her dad. If he wants to come along, then we can leave immediately, and if not, then never mind. I'll wait for you here. After the three went out, Yi Mo went into Sister Yan's room. It was a very simple room with just a bed and a mirror. Yi Mo sighed in front of the mirror, wondering how many times Sister Yen had done the same over the years. Now, she could finally do some of the things she had to do. Yi Mo didn't stop her because everyone had their own trouble to take care of. Sister Yen hadn't had freedom before, but she did now. The sky blue quilt on the bed was old but washed clean, and you could even smell a faint aroma come from it in the small dark room. Yi Mo shook his head and stored the mirror and bed into his ring. Sister Yen had used these things, so he would keep them. Suddenly, Yi Mo noticed a paper slip fall from under the quilt, and he picked it up. It had some words on it. Beauty ages easily, while yearning is slow to fade away. Yi Mo was dazed. Who had Sister Yen been yearning for? Did someone as pretty as her even need to yearn for someone? While Yi Mo was being dazed, Insi and Annie's voice sounded outside. Yi Mo's spirit sense scanned them, and there was an old man behind Annie. Yi Mo could tell that that was Annie's dad. Since they had come wearing backpacks, that meant they were willing to leave. Yi Mo took a closer look at Annie's father. Due to the long-term drinking, he looked shabby and even a bit dull. Yi Mo sighed and didn't tell him that the person who had come looking for him had already been killed. The Een siblings didn't have a lot of possessions and packed up really quickly too. They hurriedly bid their neighbors farewell and gave their neighbors all the things they didn't need before leaving with Yi Mo. Yi Mo took them to Shirkaijen and told him to send the group to Flowing Snake. Insi and Injia hadn't expected they would ever be able to go back to China. Even Annie's father said, I can finally go back. After Shirkaijen and company left, Sha Wan said, Qianbei, hundreds of millions of dollars from U.S. banks disappeared in one night, shocking the entire country. I heard that. Heard what? Yi Mo looked at Sha Wan. He could tell Sha Wan was worried about him. He probably suspected that he was the perpetrator. Sha Wan quickly said, all the banks in the U.S. have changed to a new generation of surveillance systems, and all secret bases have tightened up security as well. Change in surveillance systems? Yi Mo frowned. Would they be able to see through his invisibility? Other than that, is there any other news? Yi Mo thought of the few thousand tons of gold. Surely, they'd discovered that by now. Unexpectedly, Sha Wan shook his head. No, they just found that the banks had suddenly lost a couple $100 million, and they're already suspecting this to have been an inside job. No matter how strong someone from the outside may be, no one can just take that much without anyone noticing. Yi Mo knew that the U.S. must have found out about the gold, but for some reason hadn't announced it. Yi Mo sunk into silence. After a while, he said, "Find a few of those latest surveillance cameras and install them in a room. I want to see the effects." Sha Wan returned quickly with 3 surveillance cameras and said in disappointment, "I only got the civilian use cameras, but these are also the newest cameras they're switching to. They're based on the principle of ray divergence. I can't get the military versions for now, as I will need some time for that." Yi Mo nodded. "The civilian version is fine. Set them up in the room." 20 minutes later, Yi Mo walked out with a stern face. He didn't expect the U.S. technology to be this potent. It had only been a while, yet they already had cameras that could clearly see his shadow. And these were only the civilian use ones. The military ones would be much stronger. The only possibility was that they already had such cameras, but for some reason didn't use them up until now. But why wouldn't they? Seeing Yi Mo's face, Sha Wan confirmed his suspicion that it was probably Yi Mo who did the bank robbing. Although he looked calm, his heart was in rupture. Yi Mo took a few $100 million in cash from the bank, and no one even knew about him? How much power and skill did that require? No wonder, he said, he would be taking those weapon blueprints. Yi Mo knew that he might have missed an opportunity. If those weapon merchants also all changed to these new cameras, then he might not manage to get the blueprints. But he still needed to test it out. Thor's, one of the U.S.'s large contractors, HQ was in Lexington, Massachusetts. Their famous product was the Patriot, and the U.S. Mobility Corporation's HQ was in Virginia. It was said to be the place where the Virginia nuclear sub had been created. It was also the home of Northrop Grumman, the creator of the B-2 bomber, one of which was said to be worth $1 billion, and of Lockheed Martin, creator of the F-22 and F-35 stealth bomber, etc. What a pity, Yi Mo sighed. It had only been 2 days, and the U.S. had reacted this quickly? Is there any other news? Yi Mo felt that he had only been hearing bad news today. Sha Wan knew what Yi Mo wanted to know, and said, according to some websites, the new camera uses some special ray convergence and divergence to capture things the eye can't see. The reason why the U.S. was hiding this technology was because they were the first to invent it and didn't want to expose it too early. But now the radar and surveillance system of the military will all use that latest technology. Applying the technology to the radar system can allow it to detect any intruders at first glance. So that was it. Yi Mo immediately understood that if he went where he had planned on going now, it would be full of traps. Even if they wouldn't be able to capture him, they would be able to capture an image of him. Yi Mo truly wasn't scared of the traps, but he couldn't expose himself now. If he did, then the U.S. might go all out on Luoyu. It seemed he could only go back for now and cultivate and wait for the technological development of Luoyu. But Yi Mo had to at least go check things out to see whether they had really changed their radar system to the latest one. If they did, and he had never found out, that wouldn't have been good. Only when his power was at a certain level could he do what he wanted and crush them under his feet. To Yi Mo, that time didn't seem too distant, though. Chapter 566. Dumb, just like him. Chapter 566. Dumb, just like him back when Yi Mo annihilated Jason and the Grey Alliance. The ones who benefited the most weren't the Tang Gang, Hong Marshall Gang, or Mountain Gang. It was the native original San Francisco Gang. They took over almost all of Jason's wealth, including his private mansions. And even Yi Mo had been amazed at how luxurious it was. Tonight was the second night that Yi Mo came there. He had come for the San Francisco Gang and had only brought Sha Wan along this time. When Yi Mo and Sha Wan came to the meeting room from before, they found that almost all of the San Francisco Gang was there. There were more than 100 people, and when Yi Mo and Sha Wan came in, they instantaneously surrounded the two. Haha, our leader Smith already knew gang leader Sha would be coming, so he has been waiting A white man was sitting at the top. He was probably the leader of the San Francisco gang. But the man speaking was a Chinese man wearing glasses who stood next to him. A tall foreigner was also sitting beside the big boss. Yi Mo scanned with his spirit sense and found that the guy had guns all over him. Yi Mo couldn't help but shake his head. This guy was undoubtedly the gun king. Dick, you have a traitor among your men. Yi Mo looked at Sha Wan and said. Sha Wan's face was quite bad. He didn't expect a traitor would be able to pass on news of him so quickly. They'd already gathered everyone to wait for him. I'm sorry, Yi Chinbei, Sha Wan said guiltily. Yi Mo smiled. There's nothing to be sorry about. It's good that you had a traitor. Now they're all gathered up so we can sweep them away in one blow. This San Francisco gang isn't simple. They already knew where Shi Kai-jen was but actually didn't do anything. They probably wanted to wait for me to appear. The big boss said something, and then the glasses guy said, Our boss Smith says, you killed Jason, so now give us the money you got from him, and we can let you live. If you refuse, the man scanned the area below, and those 100 people all took out their guns. So, this was about that mere 50 million? Yi Mo sneered. The San Francisco gang has killed a lot of Chinese. It's time for you to pay. Then, Yi Mo jumped up as wind blades flew out from his hands. The air around them seemed to condense before then slicing out. Being at stage 5 meant that Yi Mo could use 60 simple wind blades consecutively. He didn't need to worry about the quality of the wind blades he used to kill ordinary people. Yi Mo hadn't come to get revenge for the Tang gang, but for Shi Kai-jen. Shi Kai-jen hadn't died, though, so he was in truth just using that as an excuse. Blood splurged out like a fountain. Time seemed to have paused, and the air condensed. No one could react. Even though Sha Wan was at the earth level, he too was stunned at this harvest-like slaughter. 100 people in a mere moment's time had all been slaughtered clean by Yi Mo, and they all died the same way. It was as though they had been measured by a ruler, and then cut in the same place. Looks like I'm getting more and more used to mass slaughter. Yi Mo's voice sounded casual, but Smith and the glasses man shivered. Demon. This person was a demon. They finally understood how the Grey Alliance, even with that much power, had disappeared in one night. If they had known this demon, Yi Mo, was this powerful, there was no way they would have dared bother him. Bang, bang, 12 gunshots sounded, but Yi Mo just made a grabbing motion in front of him, and 12 bullets appeared in his hand. He dropped them on the ground as they made clinking sounds. Dick had a pistol in each hand, but for the first time ever, he forgot to reload his gun. He simply stared dumbly at the bullets on the ground. He heard that some Chinese people would be capable of catching his bullets, and even Johnson could block his weaker bullets, but he had never thought someone would be able to catch all the bullets of his newest gun. Sha Wan, I'll leave him to you, Yi Mo said. Yes, Chenbei. Sha Wan jumped from his spot and charged at Dick like a gorilla. Dick reacted by reloading and firing rapidly. As fast as Sha Wan was, Dick still reloaded his guns 6 times and shot out nearly 100 bullets. Even a black level fighter wouldn't be able to survive in the face of that many bullets coming at them from so many angels. But his power was still far inferior to that of Sha Wan. Sha Wan was at the earth level, while he was just a yellow level gunmaster. Chinese ancient martial artists rarely used firearms, since they were useless against real masters, with the exception of those extremely high-tech weapons, of course. As Dick reloaded yet another powerful pistol, Sha Wan grabbed his neck and dragged him up. Dick was choking, and his pistol slunked to the ground. Yi Mo walked up to him and sneered. You dare try to get revenge for Jason in your pitiful state? To be honest, you're far weaker than that 3 breaths flying Dagger Johnson. Dick growled, but Yi Mo had no interest in what he had to say. Sha Wan crushed Dick's neck and threw him onto the floor like a dead dog. Yi Mo then looked at Smith and the glasses man and shook his head. Sha Wan, Kill these two too. Don't, please. I can tell you who the traitor is. The glasses man actually wet his pants, but Yi Mo had no intention of letting him go. If Sha Wan couldn't even track down a traitor among his underlings, then he would never have been able to make it out from Ren Sha. Sha Wan killed the two without hesitation. This mansion is really attractive, though. Yi Mo looked at the mansion and sighed. Seeing Yi Mo burn the bodies away with fireballs, Sha Wan felt cold on his back. Yi Mo was still stronger than he had estimated. After a while, Yi Mo and Sha Wan left the luxurious mansion behind them in a veil of fire. That night, another big gang in San Francisco was annihilated, the San Francisco Gang. Perhaps the U.S. government would claim that it was their work again. 2 days later, Yi Mo got a new identity and boarded a plane from San Francisco to Hong Kong. The clouds outside drove him into contemplation. He took out an old diary and caressed it before placing it in front of him. Yi Mo slowly flipped open to the first page. At the same time, an ordinary-looking woman walked the streets of Chinatown. She was carrying an old bag and looked lonely on those roads. She sighed after walking for a long time. I'm going back. I once stayed here for quite some years, though, so perhaps I should bring something back. Then she took out her wallet. There was only money for the plane ticket in there, perhaps not even enough. She carefully took out the card Yi Mo gave her and smiled before saying to herself, I'll use your money now, but I'll get your wife a good present in the future. She walked to an ATM. This is 5,000 US dash. She smiled, but her smile froze soon. The screen was showing 50 million US dollars and not 5,000. Suddenly, she felt her nose get sour. She didn't withdraw any money and just pulled the card out, murmuring, You're very dumb. What will you do giving all your money to me? You're dumb, just like him. Chapter 567. Sister Yan's Diary. Chapter 567. Sister Yan's Diary. The diary's first page had the picture of a young girl. Yi Mo could tell that that was the young Sister Yan. Yi Mo felt that even now, there wasn't much of a difference between the two. On the right side, there were the words Yin Qingyan's diary. Yin Qingyan? Was that Sister Yan's name? Yi Mo suddenly remembered how she had said that his mother was Yin Qingchen. Was she his auntie then? Yi Mo frowned. If she was, then wasn't the way she had acted with him a bit over the line? Although it was fine in Luoyu continent for aunt and niece to marry the same person, this was Earth. Yi Mo soon shook his head. Perhaps she was missing his mother. Yi Mo banged his head. He was thinking too much about it. After having done that with Song Yangzhu and after living with Ning Qingxue daily, his thinking seemed to have become dirty. Yi Mo shook his head and flipped to the next page. The words were much more obscure and crooked. Yi Mo suspected a little kid must have written it, and there wasn't much content. 1980, the 8th of April, a sunny day. Today we were at the Mao Ci Wan marketplace. My dad and sister brought me along, and I used the money Dad gave me to buy a diary. I really like this book. I'm 6 now, and I finally have my own diary. Afterwards, there were some trivial things like the things she did with her sister. From her words, it would seem that her sister protected her a lot. 1981, the 25th of January. A snowy day. A big brother came to our family. He's a few years older than sister. AMD, he became our martial brother. We call him Yi Kai. 1982, the 16th of February. A sunny day. Dad always liked to make us practice martial arts every day, but I didn't like it. I only like that ancient music instrument. Later on, martial brother and sister practiced martial arts, while I practiced music. At the start, my dad would tell me off, but later on, he didn't say anything and supported me instead. 1982, the 27th of March, a rainy day. A friend of Dad's came over. He said I was very talented and said I should participate in a tournament and I can win #1 in the country for the young generation. He wanted me to go to Beijing, but I didn't want to. Dad just asked me, and afterwards declined that person's offer. 1983, the 19th of November, a cloudy day. I wasn't in a good mood today. I have the feeling that the music I play isn't good at all. I feel Dad's mood also isn't good. 1984, the 21st of June, a cloudy day. Marshall brother and sister are both very nice to me, perhaps because I'm the youngest. When there is good food or good toys, sister lets me have a pick first. Sister never fought over anything with me. Dad is also very nice to me and has never criticized me, but he always reproaches sister. Sometimes she would even cry, and he always lets me pick the good stuff first before letting sister choose. That's why I've been thinking, is sister not his real daughter? The plane suddenly shook a bit, so Yi Mo sent out his spirit sense. There was some turbulence. A flight attendant still pushed her trolley over and looked at Yi Mo and asked, "Sir, do you need anything to drink?" "Sure, I'll have a cup of orange juice," Yi Mo said casually and took the orange juice from her. Then, as he subconsciously glanced at this flight attendant, he smiled intriguingly. He noticed that there was a pistol under the trolley. The flight attendant saw Yi Mo smile and blushed. She was very pretty, and she knew that those who could fly between Hong Kong and San Francisco were usually rich people. The young man who smiled at her was quite good-looking, and the main thing about him was that he had a certain special temperament. At that moment, she even forgot to keep going. Yi Mo patted her trolley and quickly grabbed the pistol under the trolley, and he destroyed the internal structure while leaving a spirit sense mark on it before putting it back. He originally thought the pistol belonged to the flight attendant, but apparently it was not. She didn't even know there was a pistol there. Yi Mo put the diary away. He could look at it after he went back. Since he found a pistol, something had to be wrong with this plane. Yi Mo thought of Ning Qingshue's plane that had also been between Hong Kong and San Francisco. The flight attendant quickly pushed the trolley further down the aisle and gave a cup of coffee to some man. Yi Mo kept his spirit sense scanning around, but even after the flight attendant had pushed the trolley all the way back and forth, no one had taken the pistol. Yi Mo was confused. Did someone forget the pistol there? Or did it belong to the flight attendant after all? The flight attendant stopped the trolley, and she started chatting with other flight attendants. There were 5 of them altogether. Yi Mo retrieved his spirit sense. He had marked the gun anyways, and would know who took it. "Are you going to San Francisco on holiday?" The person sitting next to Yi Mo broke Yi Mo's train of thought. Yi Mo just then took a proper look at him. It was an old man in his 60s. He looked like he was in good spirits, but Yi Mo knew that this old man was about to die. Yi Mo was curious to see what disease he had. Why would he still travel to the U.S. when he was about to die? The old man's condition was very strange. Although Yi Mo didn't use his qi to check the old man's body, his spirit sense was usually enough to see what the disease was, but this time it wasn't. If it wasn't for him being able to sense the death qi circulating around the old man, he wouldn't even have known that the old man was sick. Yi Mo smiled and replied, "You could say that. I went to find someone, and then I went around here and there." He wasn't interested in talking to this old man. He just felt the old man's condition was strange, but it didn't matter to him that much. "Young man, you seem quite strong. You're probably from an ancient martial arts family, right? About that gun, I'm sure that it doesn't belong to you, but you know that since someone put a gun there, it means that he has other plans. The passengers are innocent, so why did you put the pistol back?" The old man's words shocked Yi Mo. Yi Mo immediately focused and properly scanned the old man with his spirit sense. He really didn't have any power qi inside of him. How could someone like that see through Yi Mo's actions? Even though he didn't intentionally try to mask his movements with magic, he was sure that even most black levels wouldn't be able to see his actions. Yet the only thing the old man didn't see was that he had damaged the gun. "You're very strong, too. You could tell that I touched the pistol, so you're probably not going to San Francisco on holiday, right? Yi Mo's voice went cold. He even suspected that the old man had spirit sense, and that he might be a cultivator, as well, one far stronger than him at that. When it came to ancient martial artists, even if they reached a state Yi Mo didn't know about, he would still be able to know how strong they were, because they couldn't hide their chi waves from his spirit sense. But it was different for spirit chi cultivators. If their power far surpassed his, he wouldn't be able to tell there was anything abnormal about them. Haha, don't worry. I'm just a useless person who can read a bit if feng shui, the old man explained. There was no way. Yi Mo was still doubtful, but he didn't question the old man. Seeing that Yi Mo didn't speak, the old man said again, "Young man, if you don't mind, I can look at your palm for you." Yi Mo wanted to just reject the old man, but thinking about how the old man had been able to notice his actions, he changed his mind. As soon as Yi Mo reached out his hands, though, a young man at the back stood up and said, "Grandpa, your body isn't well. You shouldn't do that." Yi Mo didn't turn back, but he did scan the young man. He was only in his 20s, but also had death chi surrounding him, even though it was much fainter. The old man waved his hand. "Xiao Ku, don't worry, I know." The old man looked at Yi Mo and explained, "My health isn't too well. So Xiao Ku brought me to San Francisco to look for medical treatment while visiting old friends just like you. But it's all right, give me your hand." The old man looked at Yi Mo and explained, "My health isn't too well. So Xiao Ku brought me to San Francisco to look for medical treatment while visiting old friends just like you. But it's all right, give me your hand." Yi Mo realized that the old man also knew he was sick, but Yi Mo couldn't even see anything other than the death chi surrounding the old man. So, how did he know that he was sick? The old man was shocked. Yi Mo immediately asked, "Is there something wrong?" The old man contemplated for a long time before saying with a frown, "Young friend, your palm is very strange. I can't see your past or future. Hold on, your fate seems to have been changed?" "No, it has been changed for sure." "Yes, speaking up, till that point, the old man closed his eyes for a while before saying, powerful being, if I'm not wrong, 2 years ago, your fate was changed. Your destined death was changed to something that even I can't tell." The old man put Yi Mo's hand down and saluted with his fist, "Young friend, I've proven myself useless. I can't see your fate, but there's one thing I would like you to enlighten me on." Yi Mo was trying to calm down from his shock. This old man was the first person to see through his fate having been changed. His fortune-telling art was too scary. He could actually see one's past and future. "Qianbei, ask whatever you like." Yi Mo's tone also became respectful. This was a truly capable old man. "May I ask who the person who changed your fate is? I would love to meet this Qianbei." The old man's tone was very careful and serious. Yi Mo didn't expect him to ask about this, so he could only say, "That person is a woman, and after she helped me change my fate, she left. I still haven't found her up until now, so I'm also looking for her." As the old man heard this, he looked disappointed. After a long while, he said despondently, "I, Meng Jushan, am a frog at the bottom of a well. I thought myself to be at the pinnacle of fortune-telling, yet now I came to realize again that there's always a taller mountain. Such power is not something I can see through." The 2 people in the row in front heard those words and turned around immediately. One of them was a middle-aged woman, and the other was a young girl. The woman looked worried, but had a royal temperament to her. "Are you Master Meng Jushan?" the woman suddenly said. Clearly, she couldn't contain her excitement. The old man came back to his senses and nodded. "That's right, I'm Meng Jushan." He had always been very confident in his fortune-telling art, but had been struck down today. "Master Meng, I didn't expect to be able to encounter you here. Master Meng, this is a bit disrespectful, but I want to ask you to look at my fortune," the middle-aged woman asked desperately. She knew it was luck amongst luck to be able to see Meng Jiushan. So even if it was disrespectful, she had to ask. Meng Jiushan said, "Madam, since you know that I am Meng Jiushan, you should also know that I have an unpleasant rule. I can only tell fortune 3 times a day. Hence, I cannot see your fortune today. But you only did it once today, right? I can pay double the price." The woman was desperate. She knew that, if today passed, she wouldn't have another opportunity like that ever again. Although her family was wealthy, Meng Jiushan wasn't someone who could be invited by wealth alone. As soon as the woman said this, Meng Jiushan's face sunk. It was as though he did fortune-telling for money. He didn't ask for money from Yi Mo at all, and Yi Mo didn't propose to give him money either. He was very happy with what Yi Mo did. Yet this woman spoke about money. Immediately, this made him unhappy. If he were to need money, where couldn't he earn it? Sensing Meng Jiushan's displeasure, the middle-aged woman realized her mistake and quickly apologized. "Sorry, Master Meng, I didn't choose my words carefully. Please forgive me." Meng Jiushan waved his hand. "Don't worry about it, but I really did fortune tell 3 times today, so maybe next time." Then he stopped talking. The young woman beside her suddenly said, "Mom, these fortune tellers are just liars. Dad, and I told you so many times, but you don't believe us. We'll go back and think of something else." "Xiao-yin, don't say that. Master Meng is one of the 3 most famous masters in China. How can you say that?" The woman reproached immediately. Yi Mo looked at the middle-aged woman and could tell that she was sick too. Her eyes seemed tired and her breathing uneasy. Yi Mo didn't look too carefully, though, because she was still a woman. "Sir, I have some things I wish to ask Master Meng about. Can I switch seats with you for a bit?" the woman asked. Yi Mo sighed. He could tell this woman was well-mannered. So someone like her persisting after being rejected meant that she really was worried about her condition. As Meng Jiushan heard her words, he just shook his head. Usually, Yi Mo would have switched with her, but this time, Yi Mo also had some questions for this Meng Jiushan. He felt like Meng Jiushan was very extraordinary. He needed to know why Meng Jiushan could tell his fate had been changed. He didn't want to let other people be able to see stuff like that casually in the future. Thinking about this, Yi Mo said apologetically to the woman, "I'm sorry, but I can't switch with you this time. However, I'm also a doctor." So, suddenly Yi Mo paused. He realized that the pistol was gone. Yi Mo sent his spirit sense out and soon found his spirit sense mark. Yi Mo sent his spirit sense out and soon found his spirit sense mark. Meng Jiushan looked at Yi Mo strangely and thought, "This woman wants to swap seats with me because she wants me to look at her fortune. What has that got to do with you being a doctor?" That wealthy lady looked at Yi Mo in shock, however, and thought about what that meant. Did he dash? Yi Mo's spirit sense stayed, focused on his spirit sense mark as he smiled to the woman, and said, "I said I'm a doctor because I can help you with your condition. Perhaps you don't need Master Meng Jiushan for your condition. You know I'm sick, and you can help me?" The woman looked at Yi Mo in shock. Yi Mo nodded. "That's right, I can tell you're sick, and I especially treat those hard and rare diseases. I can cure what others can't." Although Yi Mo was telling the truth, to others, it sounded very arrogant. A young man in his 20s dared say, he can cure what others can't. Even Meng Jiushan felt like Yi Mo's words were a bluff. He knew that there were people stronger than him, but this young man was uttering truly big words. He liked humble young people, as he was very humble himself. So as soon as Yi Mo said this, his opinion of Yi Mo lowered. "Mom, I told you not to believe these people, yet you still don't listen. Sit down for now." That young woman dragged the wealthy lady back down on top of her seat. Then the young woman looked coldly at Yi Mo and said, "You can trick other people, but don't try to trick my mom. If you try one more time, I will call the police." Yi Mo felt his chin subconsciously and was speechless. He saw that the woman was really desperate, and so he decided to help him, but now he was thought of as a fraud. The woman continued, "My mom has visited a lot of countries for her condition, and not a single hospital was able to give a foolproof method. Yet you just looked at her, and you say you can cure her. Do you think you're an immortal or something? You might look a bit handsome, but apparently you're someone who does such dirty deeds. Don't joke about other people's condition. Karma will strike you." She had gone with her mother for checkups to even the U.S., but what they found out was that it would be very hard for her to undergo surgery at that moment. So she had to come back to rest up first. Yi Mo wasn't feeling too happy. He clearly had good intentions. "It's fine if you don't believe me, but there was no need to say that much. If I say that one charm I draw can instantly cure a person who has been in a vegetable-like state for many years, would you believe me? If I say that your stomach will hurt for 2 hours after we arrive, will you believe me?" Yi Mo retorted. Yi Mo's spirit sense and observation was very strong, and he could see everything clearly. The forehead between her eyebrows was a little faint due to being cold, and the tip of her tongue was also a bit white with a faint slab of green. Yi Mo was sure that she had some light food poisoning and had stayed in the cold for too long, so she would have stomach pain for about 2 hours for sure. It wouldn't be anything grave, though. After 2 hours, her own immune system would cure it. "You will get stomach pain when we arrive, the woman retorted. Yi Mo was speechless and shook his head, not wanting to talk anymore. Meng Jiushan did think that Yi Mo had spoken like that with reason, so he also shook his head when the girl retorted. The woman pulled the girl back, but then the girl turned to the woman and said again, "Mom, don't believe that fortune teller." "What, Master Meng Jiushan?" "He's obviously in cahoots with that young man, trying to trick you together. They must have tricked countless people. That probably isn't right. How could they have known that we're looking for Master Meng Jiushan? Also, I have the feeling that that young man is rather honest, and he did know that I'm sick," the woman said hesitantly. The young girl persuaded again. "Mom, do you trust me, or do you trust strangers? Have you ever seen Master Meng Jiushan? Even if that man is Meng Jiushan, so what? How can we believe something like that? Besides, it's easy to tell that you're not well from your complexion. Even I can do that much, so others can too, right? Furthermore, liars like this excel at stuff like that. He's even saying that my stomach is going to hurt tonight, so why don't we wait and see whether it will hurt?" Yi Mo and Meng Jiushan both heard this but didn't mind. "Xiao Yin, don't talk about others like that," the middle-aged woman reproached her daughter. The young girl sneered. "Mom, he even said that his charms can save vegetable-like people. Do you believe that too?" The woman sighed and said no more. In her heart, she believed it, because according to her, magical masters like that did exist. Meanwhile, ever since Yi Mo said that he was a doctor and that he could cure what others could not, that he needed only one charm to save someone in a vegetable-like state, Meng Jiushan didn't want to talk to him anymore. He even suspected that that gun might have belonged to Yi Mo. Yi Mo could guess what the master was thinking, but as his spirit sense was still on the gun, he had actually found out the identity of the owner of the gun. It was a young man, not much older than him. Although he knew the young man, it's not like he had any connection to him. They had just been in the same class at Ninghai, and this student had actually been the lowest in the class, and he rarely spoke. Yi Mo didn't have a bad impression of him, though, because he was one of the few people who didn't jeer at him for getting kicked out of the Yi family. Yi Mo remembered his name was Luo Dongsheng. Luo Dongsheng was sitting on his seat without moving. Yi Mo couldn't be bothered with what he was going to do. This Luo Xingdong didn't seem like someone who would hijack a plane or anything, unless he had gone mad. No matter what, the gun was already damaged. Yi Mo's spirit sense scanned the resting room of the flight attendants, where he saw a tall, skinny flight attendant rip the cloth from the trolley. Yi Mo immediately knew that TH-9SE2 had to be working together. The stewardess who had given Yi Mo juice might have taken the wrong trolley before. A few hours later, it was time for food, and the flight attendants gave boxed meals to the passengers. "Remember to call me." The flight attendant who had given Yi Mo the juice passed over a pink card with her number on it. As she gave Yi Mo his boxed meal, Yi Mo took the card speechlessly and nodded. In the meantime, many people went to use the bathroom, and Yi Mo saw Lu Dongsheng glance at a fat merchant as he clenched his fist. Yi Mo immediately knew that was the person Luo Dongsheng wanted to kill. What Yi Mo didn't understand was why he would do it on the plane. There would be a much greater chance of him getting exposed, and it would quite hard to succeed. After most people finished using the bathroom, Yi Mo noticed that fat merchant also leave his seat. Luo Dongsheng immediately followed. Yi Mo thought for a bit and also followed. Seeing this, Meng Jiushan stared at him and at Luo Dongsheng's back and frowned. Chapter 570. Group of Frauds. Chapter 570. Group of Frauds. Because he knew Luo Dongsheng, and because they had been classmates, Yi Mo didn't want him to be pointing a broken gun at people. He quickly walked over to Luo Dongsheng and repaired the gun before quickly putting it back. Yi Mo did this very rapidly, and Luo Dongsheng didn't notice at all. All his focus was on the fat man in front of him. Luo Dongsheng saw that fat man go to the toilet and all of a sudden squeezed in with him. "Who are you? What do you want?" The fat man wasn't dumb and immediately knew something was up. "If you scream, I'll shoot." Luo Dongsheng pointed the gun at the fat man's temples. "Who the hell are you?" The fat man wad, sweating a little, but he was rather calm. Luo Dongsheng ignored him and gave him a bank card, coldly demanding, "Transfer 5 million onto this account immediately, and don't play any tricks. If you take longer than 3 minutes, I will shoot. All I have is my little life. So scream all you want if you want to die together. I don't care. Don't get agitated. I'll transfer it immediately." "Immediately," the fat man said and took out his phone to perform the transfer. "There's no signal," the fat man said shakily. Luo Dongsheng sneered. "Give me the card and tell me the password." The fat man answered Luo Dongsheng without hesitation. Yi Mo felt like the man had given his stuff away too easily and suspected that the fat man had something up his sleeve. Probably if Luo Dongsheng went to withdraw money from that account, he would be exposed. Surely Luo Dongsheng wouldn't be that stupid, right? Yi Mo sensed that Luo Dongsheng's hand was shaking. He shook his head. This was likely Luo Dongsheng's first time doing anything like it. Luo Dongsheng took the card, and his hand started shaking even more. He said coldly, "1 year ago, a police officer raped a girl called Xiao Yun. When she went back home, she committed suicide. Today, I will get revenge for Xiao Yun at the same place." Xiao Yun, rest in peace, Luo Dongsheng then fired while covering the fat man's mouth. Yi Mo shook his head. Luo Dongsheng wasn't too dumb, at least. He had fired quite quickly, and even covered the fat man's mouth, so that he wouldn't scream. Yi Mo went back to his seat. Seeing this, Meng Jiushan suddenly said, "You didn't do anything. So why did you go over? To watch a show?" Yi Mo knew that Meng Jiushan was capable, but he didn't understand why Meng Jiushan seemed sure that he himself hadn't been responsible for killing anyone. Hasn't his impression of him become pretty bad? Yi Mo didn't reply to the question and said instead, "Mr. Meng, I said before that I'm a doctor. Regardless of whether you believe me or not, your checkups in the U.S. won't be useful. Your condition will not be able to be diagnosed. But I really wonder, how did you know that you're sick?" Meng Jiushan heard this and was shocked. Had he been mistaken? Was this young man really a master? But how was that possible? Usually the older a doctor was, the more skilled he would be. Yi Mo was only in his 20s. Furthermore, he had seen many ancient martial arts masters, but none of them had been able to tell that his condition wasn't something a hospital could diagnose. Mr. Meng, if I say that I can cure you, would you believe me? Yi Mo suddenly spoke again. If Yi Mo hadn't said that he knew the hospital wouldn't be able to diagnose his condition, Meng Jishan would have reproached Yi Mo for being boastful. But no matter what, Meng Jishan still wasn't comfortable. You can cure my disease? Young man, do you know how many people have looked at my disease? Many talented medical masters weren't able to cure me. Yet you dare to think you can? Yi Mo smiled. There are all sorts of capable people in this world. It's an overstatement to say that no one can cure your condition. You just haven't met the right person yet. Hence, it's your luck that you met me today. Their conversation caught not only the attention of the young man behind them, which was Meng Jiushan's grandson, but also of the two ladies in front. The young girl heard Yi Mo's words and whispered to the middle-aged woman, "Mom, I think the two are performing some act, trying to cheat us." Yi Mo couldn't be bothered arguing with them. He no longer had any intentions of helping the woman. His attention was on Meng Jiushan. Meng Jiushan had such excellent fortune-telling powers. If Yi Mo could learn the concepts of it and predict his own fortune, perhaps it would benefit his cultivation. The main thing was that Yi Mo had the feeling that both Meng Jiushan and his grandson were people of abundant essence and had good spirits. So he wondered why there would be death chi around them. Meng Jiushan heard Yi Mo's words and laughed in anger. Ignorant and arrogant. If he had known that this young man was like this earlier, he wouldn't even have talked to him. He had seen Yi Mo's power wasn't bad, and assumed that he was from some ancient martial arts family. But now, he really had to start believing that young girl's words. This young man was just a fraud. Yi Mo saw the sneer on Meng Jiushan's mouth, and that he didn't seem to want to talk to him anymore. Yi Mo wasn't worried, though. He would first see if Meng Jiushan had any books on fortune-telling and the like. If he did, he would read it once and give it back. He would be able to remember everything with his spirit sense. Anyway, "Sir, can you really cure my grandpa's condition?" that young man who had listened as well asked excitedly. "Shao Ku, you have no business here, don't talk," Meng Jiushan reproached. Before Yi Mo could reply, that young girl said to her mother again, "Mom, see, they're a group of frauds. If I hadn't stopped you in time, you would have been tricked." Yi Mo kept ignoring her and said to Shao Ku, "Of course, I cannot be 100% sure. I still need to examine your grandfather first, but if your grandfather isn't willing to be treated, he will only live for about half a month." "What? You can tell that I only have half a month left?" Meng Jiushan was truly shocked this time. He had merely come to try his luck in the U.S., precisely because he had only half a month left. This young man had seen through that just like that. Was he really some hidden master? Yi Mo sneered. "Not only that, but I can also tell that your grandson has this disease as well, but that it is just not as serious." "Ha!" Meng Jiushan's hand shook, and he almost knocked over the cup of juice. Then he immediately got up and bowed to Yi Mo. "I deeply apologize, young friend. I was looking at you through the eyes of a dog. Please forgive me. May I ask for your honorable name?" Yi Mo got somewhat of a good impression of Meng Jiushan in the end. He apologized as soon as he realized he had been wrong. However, Yi Mo couldn't say his real name. He was too famous in the U.S. at the moment. "I'm Mo-ing." Yi Mo waved his hand. "No problem." Yi Mo waved his hand. "No problem. Grandpa?" This dash, as Shao Ku saw that Yi Mo could even see when his grandpa would be dying, he rejoiced. If Yi Mo could really cure his grandpa's condition, then their family could finally be freed. "I was rude before," Meng Jiushan interrupted his grandson. He knew what his grandson was going to say, but it was better for him to say it. However, he was a little embarrassed. Yi Mo continued, Master Meng, I said I will treat you, and so I will. If I didn't want to treat you, nothing you said would change anything. Yes, I am just too desperate. You must not call me master anymore, though I don't deserve that title. If you don't mind, just call me by my name. Meng Jiushan said. In that case, Mr. Meng, tell me about your condition. What I'm bewildered about is that your essence is very potent, and you have no disease. So why are you still like this? Of course, Mo wouldn't say that there was death qi around Meng Jiushan. Meng Jiushan looked troubled and immediately asked, would you have the time to come to my place and have a chat? Mo knew what Meng Jiushan meant, but he really didn't have time, so he said, I am very sorry, Mr. Meng, I'm a busy person. After I land in Hong Kong, I will be going back immediately. Although the business under me isn't big, there are still some things for me to do. If you are willing to say it, then please say it here and now. If not, then I can't help you. Although Mo could check Meng Jiushan's meridians, he knew that this wasn't a physical disease, so checking Meng Jiushan's meridians wouldn't help that much. Although it involved some important secrets, Meng Jiushan clenched his teeth and explained the Meng family situation. The reason for my condition is simple. Our Meng family has always only had one son a generation, and no one has ever lived past their 60s. Everyone dies, for sure, on their 60th birthday. According to the family records, there have been 7 generations already, and still this curse is yet to be broken. There's still half a month left before I reach 60, so when Dr. Mo said that I have half a month left to live, that is when I knew that you are a capable man. Mo frowned. There was such a thing? If this was a man-made curse, what means would that require? In that case, please give me your hand, so that I can check your meridians. Mo thought for a long while, and said, Meng Jiushan's meridians were calm and normal. Even after checking it with his qi, Mo didn't find anything abnormal. Mo was only more confused, but he had the feeling that he was overlooking something specific. For now, it would seem that death qi couldn't be cured that easily through physical means. Although Mo could easily dispel the death qi, that would only save Meng Jiushan himself. According to him, all the sons of their families every generation had this condition. Wait, Meng Jiushan's blood contained faint spirit qi. He had almost missed that. How could a fortune teller have spirit qi inside his body? How is it, Dr. Mo? Meng Jiushan asked desperately, seeing Mo sunk into contemplation. Mo didn't reply and said to Xiao Ku, give me your hand too. After looking at Xiao Ku's meridians, Mo started to get the gist of the situation. Xiao Ku also had some faint spirit qi inside his body, but actually a little bit more than Meng Jiushan. Mr. Meng, have you and your grandson eaten the same type of unique fruit? Mo asked. His heart was beating fast. If this concerned a spirit fruit, then he would be earning big. Meng Jiushan looked shocked and saluted with his fist after a while. How did you know, Dr. Mo? Our family does have a special type of fruit, but it should be safe to eat. It has been passed down from our ancestors, and before we learn our fortune-telling art, we need to open the spirit, and for that we need to eat the fruit. Meng Jiushan forgot to speak softly because he was so shocked, but he wouldn't care even if others heard. Quite a few people knew about their fruit tree, but only people from the Meng family could eat the fruit. Others who tried would die for sure. Many people knew of this. Is it somehow related to with our fruit tree? Meng Jiushan then asked. Mo thought if it really is a spirit fruit, it should only make people live longer and not shorter. First, Mo needed to confirm if their fruit was a spirit fruit. It should be a spirit fruit for sure if it had spirit qi in it, but the lifespan-reducing effect made him doubtful. He said, that might not necessarily be the case, but please tell me the characteristics of the fruit. Meng Jiushan trusted Mo a lot already, and their fruit tree was no secret anyway. The maturing process of this fruit is completely different to that of normal plants. It blooms each year but never bears fruit. One must wait for 10 years of consecutive blooming before it bears 3 fruits. This fruit is very precious, but it's very bitter too. You can't even eat it. If you try to force it, you will only faint on the spot. So in the end, we started using honey to eat it, and that way, we barely dash, Yi-mo stopped Meng Jiushan. Yi-mo was sure that this had to be the second main ingredient for his foundation establishment pill, the bitter 10 years. Even if Meng Jiushan didn't let him go to the Meng family, he would still go no matter what. If he let this opportunity pass by him, he wouldn't be Yi-mo, I can cure your condition, but I need to go to your house, Yi-mo said. Anything had to make way for his cultivation progress. Mom, look at those frauds behind us being really patient. They've been acting for so long, yet they're still going, the young woman commented in contempt. The wealthy woman was dazed. She knew a lot about Meng Jiushan's legends. In the Meng family, there had indeed never been males who lived past 60. They said that that was because the Meng family had leaked too many heavenly secrets, and that it was divine punishment. After hearing this, she immediately became certain that the 2 men weren't acting. They were really Meng Jiushan and a capable young doctor. Besides, Meng Jiushan's air of seeming like an immortal Taoist really didn't appear fake. Thinking like that, the wealthy woman could no longer calmly stay seated. She got up and said to Yi-mo, Doctor, could you help me as well? I apologize for what my daughter has been saying. She's a young student who doesn't understand a lot of things. Please bear her no mind. Yi-mo smiled. Big sister, I don't dare help treat you, or else police would come for me immediately. Hearing the irony in Yi-mo's tone, the woman blushed and wanted to apologize again, but the young girl stopped her once more. Mom, you still don't believe me. Are you really going to trust a fraud? The woman's face burst red, and she slapped away the hand of the young girl. She said with red eyes, Xiao-yin, I know you're acting in my benefit, but do you really want to see me die? If it wasn't for Nan, I might as well die, but now I absolutely can't yet. You call Master Meng fake, a capable doctor fake. Money. Is money really that important to you? Can you even spend all the money you have now? Mom dash, that young girl was dazed. She didn't expect her gentle mom to become this angry. Yi-mo didn't mind the 2 as he noticed that Luo Dongshen had returned to his seat with an anxious complexion. Chapter 572, Simple Scam. Chapter 572. Simple Scam. By then, most people had started coming back to their seats, but that fat man still hadn't come back. Yi-mo estimated that it wouldn't take much longer before a flight attendant found out. And obviously it was no good that Luo Shengdong was acting like that. Other than his facial expression, everything else about his body said that he had killed the man. Meng Jiushan wasn't very happy about being interrupted, but knowing that other people were also worried about their condition, he thought it to be understandable. I'm sorry, doctor. I'm really sorry, but I can't die yet. There's some people I can't leave behind. Please help me, the middle-aged woman begged Yi-mo. Because she was so anxious, her voice was inevitably getting louder, and the people around her all looked over. At this moment, a flight attendant walked over as well and said apologetically to the woman, Madam, please fasten your safety belt and don't leave your seat except for in the case of an emergency. Yi-mo rubbed his head. He really didn't feel like having everyone looking at him, so he said, Big sister, please sit down, and then we can talk. The middle-aged woman sat down. I do charge a fee, and it's going to be very expensive. If you're not willing to spend money, you shouldn't ask for my help. Yi-mo wasn't too nice, but he wasn't heartless either. He had a good impression of the woman, just not so of her daughter. Another thing he took into account was that he could tell the woman was wealthy from her clothes and jewelry. It would be fine to make her pay up if she didn't want to pay, or if she was scared of getting scammed, then he would save himself the trouble. Hearing this, Everyone listening in from the side had that look of realization that said, so, in the end, it's still about money. Meng Jiushan knew of Yimo's power, and he knew that masters usually wouldn't do things for free, so he thought it normal for Yi Mo to ask money. But asking for money on the spot ruined the master image, so he would usually perform his services first, and then his clients would pay him with whatever they could. And this woman was already certain that Yi Mo had great power. Otherwise, Meng Jiushan wouldn't have believed him. Hearing Yi Mo ask for money, the young woman had an extreme look of disgust on her face. She opened her mouth to speak, but eventually didn't say anything. Of course I will give money, but I don't have that much cash on me. I will make sure you receive it after we get off the plane. The woman quickly nodded. Yi Mo immediately said, just give me your card. And its password. Sure. She took out a gold card from her bag without hesitation. The password is 765,690. There's 3 million inside, and you can take up to 10 million from it. If that's not enough, Yi Mo took it and waved his hand. That'll do. Actually, these few millions were in fact merely a few $100,000 USD, so Yi Mo really didn't think much of it. The young woman glared at Yi Mo. Yi Mo didn't even look at her, and said to the woman, give me your hand. The young girl couldn't do anything to Yi Mo, so she looked at the wealthy woman and called out, but that woman only gave her back a look of disappointment and sadness. She ignored the young girl and gave her hand to Yi Mo. The young woman saw this and made up her mind to get the people in her family to freeze the card as soon as possible. The people around admired Yi Mo for tricking a few million out of someone in the blink of an eye, and he hadn't even diagnosed the patient yet. Now, they wondered how the young fraud would fulfill his lie. Yi Mo put his finger on a meridian and checked it with his qi. He immediately found out what had happened to the middle-aged woman. There was a mutation in the blood vessels in her brain, which had brought about a mutation to all the blood vessels in her body. The vessels were all covered with small black dots. It would be very hard for modern medicine to cure that. After she got this disease, she would have at most only a few months left to live, and even then, she would be tortured by the disease a few hours each day. And not some usual torture. Her entire body would be in pain. Normal people wouldn't be able to endure it. Luckily, her cerebral neurons hadn't been damaged, or she wouldn't even have been able to keep thinking properly. Yi Mo had some sympathy for the woman. The hospital wouldn't be able to cure this, but Yi Mo could do so in an hour. Although he could do it right now, Yi Mo didn't. He didn't want to expose himself on the plane. Considering that, Yi Mo took out some things from his pocket and took 20 minutes to draw a charm on the chair. No one knew how he could fit so many things in his pocket. After he finished, he put the things back in his pocket. Meng Jiushan looked in shock. He didn't expect Yi Mo to really be curing a disease through charms. Meng Jiushan believed in charms. He could make a few simple ones himself, but he had never seen life-saving ones. In that instant, Yi Mo became all the more mysterious to him. Yi Mo gave the charm to the woman and said, this is a perversion and sickness removal charm. Put this on your head at 5 a.m. tomorrow. When the charm turns to ashes, you will be fine. Although the middle-aged woman really believed in Yi Mo, she was still dazed at Yi Mo giving her a charm. Even if she put that on her head 1,000 times, it wouldn't turn into dust for many years. Thinking about this, she asked, Doctor, I want to ask how long it would take to turn into dust. Yi Mo looked at her. According to your condition, it should take around 30 minutes. The dust will actually be the poison inside your body, so you mustn't just throw it away casually. Find a remote location to bury it. At this moment, many people applauded Yi Mo for being an expert in scams. People thought he would be trying to cure her on the spot, yet he used such a method to delay time. By the time the lady found out it was all fake, he would be nowhere to be seen. Finally, someone couldn't keep watching and said, young man, Doing such things is immoral. You took her card and you're just going to give her a charm? Yi Mo scanned this person and said casually, "We mutually agreed on this. What has this got to do with you? By the way, although I can cure your condition with a charm too, I won't sell it to you even if you give me 100 million. Haha, I'm sick too now. You're really funny," the middle-aged man retorted. Yi Mo said plainly, "Yep, you have a very hard-to-cure heart disease." The man wanted to get up and fight Yi Mo, but was stopped by some people beside him. He had such a strong body. Yet this young fraud said he had a heart disease? Bullsh asterisk T. Then the middle-aged man said to the woman, "Big sister, you need to be careful of frauds. There are too many of them these days." The woman smiled but didn't reply. The man could only shake his head. He realized he wasn't really minding his own business. At that moment, Yi Mo saw a flight attendant start to ask around about the empty seat. Soon 2 undercover airline police officers appeared, and the captain of the plane spoke through the microphone. "Dear passengers, welcome aboard our flight. This is your captain speaking. My name is Yu Yeming. I regretfully have to inform you that there has been a murder aboard this plane. A passenger was killed in the restroom. So in order to ensure everyone's safety, please don't leave your seats right after the plane lands." Soon 2 undercover airline police officers appeared, and the captain of the plane spoke through the microphone. "Dear passengers, welcome aboard our flight. This is your captain speaking. My name is Yu Yeming. I regretfully have to inform you that there has been a murder aboard this plane. A passenger was killed in the restroom. So in order to ensure everyone's safety, please don't leave your seats right after the plane lands." The plane immediately erupted into chaos. Everyone became anxious, afraid that there might be people trying to hijack the plane. Yi Mo scanned Luo Dongsheng. Although he was clearly nervous, he was much better than most passengers. But Yi Mo immediately judged that this Luo Dongsheng had no potential to be a killer. He was still keeping that gun on him. Yi Mo shook his head. Why keep the gun after killing the target? That was asking to be caught. But then he considered Luo Dongsheng might have a reason for keeping the gun. The flight attendant on his side was pushing a trolley anxiously, and it seemed like he had wanted to use the trolley to relocate the gun. But for some reason, a different flight attendant found out about the situation sooner than he'd expected. He should have dealt with the gun immediately. Maybe he was afraid of leaking his fingerprint, but couldn't he have washed it with water? Or was it impossible to just wash fingerprints away with water? But then the dead person would have his fingerprints on him anyway, right? Suddenly, Yi Mo remembered that his fingerprints were also still on the gun, and he cursed. He wasn't scared of anyone, but this flight was sensitive, and if anyone investigated, they might find out that he was Yi Mo. If the U.S. knew that Yi Mo had gone to San Francisco, they might suspect him for the robberies. Meng Jiushan was the only other person who knew who the killer was, but he didn't seem to even hear the captain's words as he carefully asked Yi Mo all sorts of questions. Although he was more interested in the bitter 10 years, Yi Mo was also interested in Meng Jiushan's fortune-telling art. Hearing the conversation between the two, the wealthy woman wanted to ask more questions, but she was afraid Yi Mo would be annoyed at her. And so she didn't say anything, but she didn't talk to her daughter anymore. One could see how disappointed she was at her. After the murder, the atmosphere on the plane became weird. People all focused their attention on the people next to them, fearing that they were sitting with the killer. A few more policemen appeared. No one wanted to be suspected, so those who wanted to go to the toilet also resisted the urge to go. A few hours later, the plane landed at Hong Kong International Airport. The passengers got off and had to go through a temporary detector that was set up. The detector would sound an alarm if any weapons were detected. Luo Dongsheng obviously realized that, and his face looked pretty bad. According to his plan, the pistol should have been moved away already. He didn't expect the murder to be exposed that early. As Yi Mo saw this, He knew that Luo Dongsheng had no way of hiding the gun, so he could only take the gun and put it in his ring when they got off the plane together. When Luo Dongsheng walked past the detector and no alarm sounded, he started suspecting his own ears. He was dazed for a moment as people on the side pushed him before he walked into the foyer. Subconsciously, he felt the place where he had put the gun, but it was gone. He suspected that he might have left it on the seats, but he couldn't go back and check anymore. The flight attendant who was on Luo Dongsheng's side was very worried too, so when she saw Luo Dongsheng being fine, she was overjoyed. Before Yi Emo left, he heard Luo Dongsheng say to the girl that they should go check out Luo Yu. Yi Emo nodded. It seemed like Luo Yu was quite famous, which was good to attract all sorts of capable people. Although they knew the culprit was amongst the passengers, they didn't have any incriminating evidence, and almost everyone had gone to the toilets, so no one knew when the fat man could have been killed. The passengers couldn't be kept there, not to mention that there were important people among them, and they couldn't be held back there for some dead merchant. So after a simple interview, everyone left. Before Luo Dongsheng left, Yi Emo put the gun back on him again. Before the wealthy woman left, she expressed her gratitude to Yi Emo many times. Although she hadn't been cured yet, she could tell from Yi Emo's eyes that Yi Emo hadn't scammed her, yet that young girl was getting more and more impatient. Due to Meng Jioshan's case popping up suddenly, Yi Emo had to go to the Meng family to see the bitter 10 years. Hence, he followed Meng Jioshan to their house. The Meng family had been in the Huzhong province in the past, but they moved to Hong Kong during the Cultural Revolution. After Luo Dongsheng and that flight attendant left the airport, they took a taxi to Hong Kong Miao Pu. Although it was very chaotic there, that was where the housing was the cheapest. After getting off the taxi, it was already 10 p.m., and the flight attendant asked, "Dongsheng, how was your pistol not found? I was so worried. Luckily, you actually had a way to hide your gun." Luo Dongsheng was very worried and said immediately, "Ingzi, it's best if we leave this place as soon as possible. Come with me to Luo Yu. I heard that the city lord of Luo Yu is very powerful. We can go there." Luo Yu is open to the world now, and they need all sorts of capable people to go and welcome Chinese settlers. Why, didn't you say we would go after finishing up everything here? Besides, I still want to get my end-of-the-year bonus, Ingzi said. Luo Dongsheng shook his head and said, "I suspect they might know I was the culprit by now, because I might have left the pistol on the seats." What? Ingzi's face changed drastically. If the pistol was left on the seats, then they would be caught through the fingerprints for sure. Suddenly, Luo Dongsheng felt his pockets and said in a daze, at the checkpoint, "I searched many times through my pockets, yet I didn't find it on me. So, why did it suddenly appear now?" Ingzi said, "Could it be that you were too nervous and didn't feel it?" Luo Dongsheng shook his head. "There's no way. It's not like it's just some piece of cloth. Furthermore, the detector would have detected it." The two looked at each other for a long time before saying at the same time, "Someone is helping us. Dongsheng, let's go to Luo Yu. I don't want to live here. Anyway, I want to live a peaceful life." Ingzi suddenly made up her mind. "Okay, let's go to Luo Yu." Luo Dongsheng also made up his mind. At the same time, in a 5-star hotel in Hong Kong, that wealthy lady was holding her charm with an absent mind. Her young daughter carefully went outside, calling back home to tell about the card scam and request for the card to be frozen. "Mom, I already told you. Don't believe this. A charm thingy should be able to cure you? Is that possible? The U.S. hospitals all agreed you should stay there for extended diagnosis. We should go back to the U.S. after we deal with the family business," the young girl said. She was still not happy about her mom being tricked and still refusing to listen to her. Chapter 574. No Medicine for Regret. Chapter 574. No medicine for regret. That middle-aged woman carefully put away the charm and sighed. Xiao-yin, there are a lot of capable people in China. My dad once told me, Qingque, you shouldn't underestimate anyone, nor should you blindly follow others. Sometimes the ones who can help you best might be those who casually pass by you. Mom, Grandpa comes from the old society dash. Before she finished, she was interrupted. Xiao-yin, call me Ani from now on, and don't call him Grandpa. If the Shen family people hear that, they will gossip about it. The words I said on the plane were a bit over the line. Please don't take it personally. Nan, sigh, never mind. Nan has his own fortune. The woman's tone was melancholic. Xiao-yin was dazed. She suddenly thought that it wasn't right for her to have let the people in the family freeze the card. Even if the money was scammed, it was what Ani Qingque wanted herself. Sensing the sadness in the woman, Xiao-yin suddenly said, Mom, you'll always be my mom in my heart. I'll call you Ani in front of others from now on, though. Don't worry, we'll go back home and prepare a bit, but then we'll go to the U.S. for treatment. I believe you can get better for sure. As for Nan, don't worry, I can take care of him. The middle-aged woman waved her hand. After a long pause, she said, no matter whether I get better or not this time, I won't go back for treatment anymore. Nan is also a part of the Shen family, so he can stay there. But I've clearly been in the mortal world for too long. I shouldn't keep thinking about these things. Mom, you dash. Xiao-yin looked at the middle-aged woman and saw how strong her decision to become a nun was. The middle-aged woman didn't talk for a while and fell into silence. Arg. Xiao-yin suddenly screamed and fell to the ground. What's wrong, Xiao-yin? The middle-aged woman woke up from her reverie and quickly helped Xiao-yin up. My stomach hurts so much. Xiao-yin screamed. At that moment, both the middle-aged woman and Xiao-yin seemed to remember something, and they looked at the clock on the wall at the same time. It was 12 a.m. midnight. The young doctor on the plane had said that her stomach would be hurting for 2 hours. I'll call a doctor. The middle-aged woman saw the young girl rolling on the bed in pain and was very worried. No, Mom. Xiao-yin pulled her mother's hand. That person said it would only go on for 2 hours. I should be fine after 2 hours. We'll see tomorrow. The middle-aged woman believed Yi Mo's words, and Xiao-yin's current situation proved that the young man's words were right. Wasn't he a magical doctor? She sighed. If Xiao-yin hadn't treated him like that, then perhaps he could have saved her this pain. Xiao-yin felt her pain get better and asked, Mom, could it be that he purposely made my stomach hurt? Xiao-yin, don't say that. That young magical doctor didn't even touch you. How could he make your stomach hurt? The middle-aged woman was clearly a bit unhappy. Yes, Mom, I know. I truly hope he is as capable as this makes him seem. Maybe you can really get better, dash. Suddenly, she stopped. Did she really think like that so easily? She clearly knew what she thought before. She was sure that that guy was a fraud and never held the faintest belief that he would be able to cure Ani Qingque's condition. That's why she froze the card. But now she was doubtful too. How would a fraud know her stomach would hurt tonight? After a long while, Xiao-yin crawled up and said, I'm fine now. My stomach doesn't hurt anymore. The both of them looked at the clock, and it was 2 a.m. It had been exactly 2 hours. Mom, the young girl called out. The two looked at each other for a long while without speaking. Everything that young man said was confirmed. If it was just a guess, then his luck was too absurd. Mom, why don't you putting that charm on your head and trying? Xiao-yin suddenly really wanted to see if that charm would work. The middle-aged woman shook her head. It's not 5 a.m. yet. He said it must be 5 a.m. So I'll wait till then. Xiao-yin didn't argue for once and nodded. 3 hours went by quickly, and it became 5 a.m. The middle-aged woman picked up the charm and put it on her head reverently. She wanted to lie down to prevent the charm from falling, but when she put the charm on her head, she felt it get stuck to her head automatically. Before she could think about anything else, her body started to heat up. There was a pins and needles kind of sensation all over her body. There were clearly many things the eye can't see being sucked away by the charm. She couldn't see it, but she could feel it. "Mom, how is it?" Xiao-yin also looked astonished, seeing that the charm wasn't falling off. The middle-aged woman didn't talk. She felt a lazy, warm sensation all over her body, and she didn't want to talk. Half an hour later, she woke up abruptly as the charm slowly fell to the ground. It turned into dust, which then didn't separate at all. As the middle-aged woman witnessed that, she suddenly teared up. No one knew better than her that her condition had truly been cured. In a short 30 minutes, some magical charm had cured her. After standing shocked for a while, the middle-aged woman took out a handkerchief and carefully wrapped the dust. The doctor had said it would be very poisonous and that it had to be dealt with carefully. "Mom, it really turned into dust. Is it dash?" Xiao-yin looked at the middle-aged woman in disbelief. She could feel her worldview get shattered. She remembered that young man's words. "If I say that one charm I draw can instantly cure a person who has been in a vegetable-like state for many years, would you believe me? If I say that your stomach will hurt for 2 hours after we arrive, will you believe me?" Funnily enough, her stomach really had hurt, and the charm did turn into dust. That magical doctor, Mo, he's a real master. He could cure my disease in half an hour, but the money I gave him isn't even 10% of the value of this treatment, Qingkui said. Xiao-yin just murmured to herself, "It actually worked, actually wore dash suddenly." She said desperately, "Mom, he said he could cure even vegetable-like people with charms. Great uncle has been dash." Before Xiao-yin finished, the middle-aged woman shook her head. "You can't meet such masters whenever you want, Xiao-yin." Sigh, dash at this moment. She suddenly realized why Ani Qingkui had called it luck amongst luck to be able to see Meng Jiushan. It had been even greater luck to meet that magical doctor, yet she didn't even ask him for a charm, and instead she called him a fraud. She suddenly thought of the card. If that doctor went to withdraw money and found the card frozen, what would he think? He must think the real fraud is Ani Qingkui. Thinking about this, the young girl really regretted. Hong Kong Meng Mountain Villa. This villa was more famous than even the Mo family's half-mountain mansion, due to the Meng family being renowned as one of the 3 great Chinese feng shui families. There were countless people wanting to ask Master Meng to look at feng shui or tell their fortune, but only those very significant people could actually invite him. Each time, they would treat him with the highest respect they could. Yet today, Master Meng was carefully accompanying a young man in the Meng family mountain villa. At this moment, Yi Mo stood in the fruit garden of the luxurious mountain villa of the Meng family. Looking at the fruit tree in front of him, his mood swung from extreme excitement to deep disappointment. Why? Because the 3-meter-tall tree in front of him was indeed a bitter 10-years tree, but due to neglect, it was on the verge of death. At this moment, Yi Mo stood in the fruit garden of the luxurious mountain villa of the Meng family. Looking at the fruit tree in front of him, his mood swung from extreme excitement to deep disappointment. Why? Because the 3-meter-tall tree in front of him was indeed a bitter 10-years tree, but due to neglect, it was on the verge of death. Bitter 10 years was something hard to find even in the cultivation realm. It was the hardest to find of the 3 main ingredients needed to make the Foundation Establishment pill. It was the rarity of this ingredient that resulted in the Foundation Establishment pill being so hard to get. It wasn't rare to find one fruit be sold for tens of thousands of spirit stones. It was very hard for the bitter 10 years to grow. It only grew a centimeter each year. This one was obviously close to 300 years old, which was very rare. The only pity was that even though it seemed to have been taken care of properly, its own spirit chi was dissipating, and thus it was near death. Even if Yi-Mo wanted to save this tree, he would have to have spirit stones to build a spirit-gathering formation. But even if he had spirit stones, he wouldn't be able to waste them for building formations. He would use them to cultivate. But this also meant that the Meng family had quite the skills to be able to keep the bitter 10 years alive for 300 years. There was a saying about the bitter 10 years to bloom, one morning to bear fruit, bitter in the heart, but sweet in its Tao. In the cultivation realm, you were only considered a proper cultivator when you reached the foundation establishment state. If one wanted to reach the foundation establishment state, the bitter 10 years was a must. Dr. M.O. Meng Jiushan saw Yi-Mo stand in front of the bitter 10 years and sigh in disappointment, so he called out. Yi-Mo looked at Meng Jiushan and said, "This tree only has a few years left to live." Hearing this, Meng Jiushan looked despondent and nodded. "Yes, you are right, Dr. M.O. This tree indeed doesn't have long left." Yi-Mo nodded and asked, "How do you know this tree only has a few years left to live?" "This is what my ancestors said. When this tree leaves the place it grew up, it will have lived for only 300 years. There's only a few years left until those 300 years. Meng Jiushan felt sad. This tree was very important to the Meng family. Leave the place it grew up. So, not its birthplace? This tree wasn't planted by your ancestors? In that case, how could you let it live for 300 years? Yi-Mo was bewildered. This was a miracle. Yes, when my ancestor first found the tree, it was less than 3 inches big, but he dug it out with 1 meter of earth and brought it away. Yi-Mo understood now. With that much earth dug away, its growth wouldn't be affected, but after all these years, the nutrients from the original earth had all been absorbed, and now it was dying. Then Meng Jiushan said, when we moved it to Hong Kong, we dug 6 meters of earth around it and shipped it here. And now, there's no way for us to save it anymore. Yi-Mo suddenly considered something and asked, "Where did your ancestor find the tree?" Hearing this, Meng Jiushan's face looked pained. Yi-Mo could tell he didn't really want to say it. So he immediately said, "I can cure your Meng family's disease, as long as you can tell me where you found the tree." The bitter 10 years must have come from a place with abundant spirit chi. Yi-Mo had some understanding of the Meng family's disease. It was caused by their ancestor wrongly eating the bitter 10 years. The bitter 10 years couldn't be eaten with honey. If there was a lack of spirit chi, it was best made into a medicinal soup or pill. Otherwise, it could cause a blockage of life force, despite making the person healthier. And if there was an abundance of spirit chi, the life force wouldn't be blocked. If the bitter 10 years weren't withered, it would be hard for Yi-Mo to cure the disease, but since it was withered, he only needed to dissipate the spirit chi blocking their life force. They wouldn't have to eat the bitter 10 years anymore anyways. Thank you, Dr. M.O. Meng Jiushan was waiting for these words. When our ancestor found the place, there were 2 of these trees, and one was already 5 meters tall. Yi-Mo was shook too. One was already 5 meters tall then. So now that 300 years had passed, wouldn't that tree be 800 years old? An 800 years old bitter 10 years. Yi-Mo's heart burned with intensity. If he managed to acquire that, he would be earning big. A fruit from that tree would be worth more than 100,000 spirit stones. Meng Jiushan could tell that Yi-Mo was very interested in the tree and continued, "Yes, my ancestor could only take the small one, but he decided to go back later on to get the big one, but he couldn't find it." This was in the depth of the Duanheng Ranges, in the Sea of Clouds. The ancestor said that he had seen a natural North Spoon 7 stars formation, but our ancestors have been unable to find anything even after looking for 200 years. Yi-Mo calmed down a bit, but he definitely had to go to that place no matter what. Yi-Mo said calmly, "Okay, now recite your Meng family fortune-telling art for me to see where the problem lies." Yi Mo already knew where the problem was, but he was saving the entire Meng family, so he felt it reasonable enough to take something from them. Meng Jiushan didn't doubt anything. He believed there was no way to learn the Meng family fortune-telling art by just listening to it once. There were a lot of words that required explanation word by word, and sometimes it took a whole day to explain one word. The art formula wasn't long, about 10,000 words, but what shocked Mo was that it was the closest thing to spirit chi cultivation he had ever encountered on Earth. The difficult words didn't bother Mo at all, as he knew much more than Meng Jiushan. This art gave Mo much more inspiration than the book he had seen at the Nine Moon Sect. He had understood a lot from it, and if he went back into solitary training now, he would even be able to have some breakthrough. The trip had not been a waste of time. Okay, I understand now. Call all the male members of your family over. I'll remove this disease for you. Because the tree couldn't live anymore anyway, Mo didn't tell them to stop eating the fruits. Meng Jiushan rejoiced that Mo was willing to help. There weren't that many males in their family, only 6, so Mo didn't require much time to dispel the condensed spirit chi inside of them. As for the women in the Meng family, Mo gave the family a recipe for making some medicine for that. Eventually, Meng Jiushan took out a check with a huge sum on it, but Mo rejected. Although it was a lot of money, it was nothing to Mo. Moreover, he had already acquired quite a lot from Meng Jiushan. A master indeed. Meng Jiushan saw that Mo might have asked for 3 million from that wealthy lady on the plane, but he rejected the tens of millions on the check, and this changed his perception of Mo greatly. The Duanheng Ranges, North Spoon 7 stars. Why did that sound like the entrance Luo Xian had talked about? Jing City. This place wasn't far from North Korea, at the borderline of China. Even though it wasn't winter, Chinese New Year had just passed, but there was still a lot of snow. Jing City. This place wasn't far from North Korea, at the borderline of China. Even though it wasn't winter, Chinese New Year had just passed, but there was still a lot of snow. It was March, early spring already, yet Jing City still had endless snowfalls. Most of the people in the city always stayed in their houses with their heater on, watching TV. May Mountain was the tallest mountain in Jing City, although it sounded the same as Mount May in Sichuan. There was a huge fundamental difference between the two mountains. May Mountain was constantly covered in snow, except for some individual places, and at special times. One couldn't see green anywhere. At this moment, outside a village at the foot of the May Mountain, a stressed-looking young woman was walking arduously on the road. It seemed like she wanted to enter the village and take a break. Her bulging stomach made it hard for her to walk, her steps were weak, and she was obviously powerless. In the end, she accidentally slipped and fell to the floor. The woman used her hand to protect her stomach as she wanted to get up, but she failed again and again. The snow was getting more and more intense, and there was no one to be seen on the small road. Why is someone laying on the snow? A nun with a huge backpack thought in wonder, but she walked up to the woman very rapidly. She looked at the woman on the ground and helped her up. She muttered to herself in shock, "Such a pretty girl, and she's not from here. She's pregnant? Wait, it would seem she has cultivated ancient martial arts before, but is just heavily wounded." Without even checking the woman, the nun quickly carried her and the big backpack up May Mountain as she ran even faster than before. Cultivation was truly a matter with no ending. As soon as Mo came back and gave Su Yuehua what he had to give her, he started cultivating again. He had understood some things useful to him from the Meng family's fortune-telling art. In the turn of an eye, a few months passed, but today, Mo couldn't focus his mind anymore. He felt annoyed and restless. Mo got up and checked his power and found that he was at the middle stage of stage 5. He was quite happy that he had been able to improve in only a few months. After Yimo came out, Su Yuehua, Su Ping, and company quickly came. Ning Qingxue arrived by Yimo's side on first notice too. Surprisingly enough, Yi Zifeng and Yi Ling also came. Yi Mo felt strange and asked Yi Zifeng, why have you come? What happened to the Yi family in Beijing? Big brother, we're brothers. I know Grandpa is right, but if we hide in Beijing while Luo Yu is in hardship and come back after Luo Yu overcomes the difficulty, what kind of brothers would we be then? Brothers need to share hardship together too, not just the good times. Even Yi Ling knew to come help you. How can I fall behind? Yi Zifeng's words touched Yi Mo. He knew that Yi Zifeng quite possibly might not be blood related to him, but he would always see Yi Zifeng as his blood brother nonetheless. Soon, the entire management level of Luo Yu assembled at the meeting hall. They were preparing to discuss the complete relocation of Luo Yu Pharmaceuticals to Luo Yu City. Luo Yu had achieved some level of self-protection by now, and they believed that they were nearing the end of the U.S.'s patience. Luo Yu was wealthy, and large amounts of assets flew into Luo Yu. But what shocked everyone was that no matter how big Luo Yu got, they just wouldn't enter the stock market. People could buy Luo Yu's products, but not their shares. And because Luo Yu had plenty of money, they had started looking for large military countries with weapons to sell for some transaction opportunities. Those countries only looked at money, and so they all accepted some form of dealings with Luo Yu. But it wasn't like Luo Yu could buy all sorts of weapons left and right. Even if a country were willing to let Luo Yu buy their military-grade weapons, they would have to acknowledge that Luo Yu was an independent government first. That condition stopped a lot of countries in their tracks. America, Russia, Germany, France, and England were all powerful military countries. The U.S. couldn't admit Luo Yu's independence, nor would they sell weapons to Luo Yu, as they were just waiting for Luo Yu to mature before they would start trying to seize it. Germany, France, and England were all on the same team, and they knew what the U.S. was thinking. Although they were interested in the money Luo Yu could bring them, they couldn't just casually sell Luo Yu weapons, taking the U.S. into account. But Russia was different. They didn't care. Although Russia wasn't as militarily potent as the Soviet Union had been, they had developed on a broader scale. While England, France, and Germany were in the middle of hesitating, they admitted Luo Yu's independence without hesitation, and simply sold their weapons to Luo Yu as they pleased. Large amounts of money fell into Russia's reserves, while large amounts of planes, nuclear submarines, and tanks went into Luo Yu. Seeing this happen, Germany finally couldn't resist anymore. They didn't expect that some small Luo Yu would have that much power, gobbling up batch after batch of weapons. But to them, it was still a bit hard to admit Luo Yu's independence. America immediately stood out to criticize Russia, saying that they were increasing volatile factors in the world. But Russia soon retaliated by saying that the U.S. was the largest distributor of weapons in the world. So especially the U.S. had no right to criticize Russia. Marshall Brother, after making our latest nuclear weapon, we've modeled the explosion, and it shouldn't be weaker than any nuclearly armed country's weapons. Our newest intercontinental missile can easily bomb the U.S. We have the ability to send a nuke right to their dinner table, Yi Xing said joyfully. Yi Mo nodded. He was very satisfied with Yi Xing's capabilities, and he trusted him unconditionally. Yi Xing is right. Our greatest achievement is the newest nuclear reactor engine. Without the new computers and mechanical stations you bought, we really wouldn't have been able to produce it. Su Ping nodded. Russia is giving us rather average things, so I think we still need to produce our own weapons. If you give me 3 years, I'm sure that Luo Yu will be the center of the world's military technology, Yi Xing said pridefully. Making weapons is a means, not the goal. Although weapons earn money, there are plenty of other things we can earn money with. For now, Luoyu's population is too small. When our population reaches a couple million, then we can become truly independent, Yemo said. Su Yuehua nodded and said, "Many of those working at Luo, you have moved their families here. Now, there's almost 200, 000 people here. 60% of them are Chinese, and the rest comes from other countries around the world. We've also established airplane routes from many different countries, allowing those who want to move here to come for free. Okay, in that case, let's move Flowing Snake's Luoyu here as well. It is time." Yi Emo was really pleased with how fast Luoyu had developed. If the U.S. still wanted to attack them, they would have to think about their chances first. Once we move Luoyu here completely, the U.S. will react. They might even attack Luoyu at first notice and try to rob us of our things. We need to be ready for battle, Su Yuehua said. Luoyu is already completely different from when they had first come there. Not only did they have the new air defense system, they also had Yi Xing's newly made electronic interference and GPS location systems. In fact, the electronic interference system might be seen as one of the main reasons why Luoyu could be so confident. Yi Emo suddenly got up and scanned everyone. We will be moving all of Luoyu pharmaceuticals to Luoyu, including the population of Flowing Snake. We have more than 200, 000 people now. At the same time, let the 200 nautical miles of sea around Luo. You also belong to Luoyu. Su Yuehua commented worriedly. The Commonwealth Sea laws state that the regional sea of a nation must be no more than 12 nautical miles. Wouldn't we be giving the U.S. a reason to start the war that way? Su Yuehua commented worriedly. The Commonwealth Sea laws state that the regional sea of a nation must be no more than 12 nautical miles. Wouldn't we be giving the U.S. a reason to start the war that way? Yi Emo smiled. We wouldn't be the only ones with a sea region of 200 nautical miles. Many countries have surpassed 200 miles. Luoyu City is special too. We face the sea on 3 sides, so we need to increase our regional sea. Our main military power will be at sea. Besides, even if we don't assume even an inch of a regional sea, they will still start a war anyway. Hence Yi Emo looked at everyone sitting down. As soon as Luoyu Pharmaceuticals comes to Luoyu City, we will immediately test the nuclear bomb. We need to flash our power in front of the eyes of those who have bad intentions for Luoyu City. I will say now that no matter whether it's on my land or in my regional sea, I am the one who decides things. Yes, that's the spirit. I shall be the first to support you, City Lord. Huang Yinian stood up excitedly. Yi Mo's words had gotten to everyone's hearts. Luoyu didn't have their own plane, tank, or gun production line. Instead, their first production line was a ship production line. The first product made there was their own carrier ship. This was a nuclear-powered carrier ship Yi Xing had designed in Northern Sand. Of course, we have the latest air defense system and electrical interference and positioning systems. Now, they can come anytime they want, Yi Xing said satisfyingly. Yi Emo stopped Yi Xing, although we have made great progress in some areas. Our overall military power is still far below that of the U.S. We're no match for them yet, but we merely need to have the capability to threaten them and make them have some concerns. The situation is such that we shouldn't start a conflict, at least not yet. We don't have the necessary power yet. Su Yuehua nodded. We're just able to compare our trump card with the mere superficial, openly visible portion of their power. Who knows what greater cards they have hidden? So I agree with City Lord's opinion. We're far from a match for the U.S. at the moment, not to mention that they have a lot of allies. If we were to fight, most parties would be helping them. We'll definitely fight sooner or later, but we don't know what the fight is going to be like. Right now, a few of our medical factories are making money, but once we start fighting, the costs will be huge. So increasing our tactical assets is still very important to us, Yi Emo said. He knew there was too little time left for Luoyu. If they had a few years more, the U.S. would only be a slightly large stepping stone for them. Zhang Jiayan continued, "We have stored quite some food already, and large amounts of usable factories, a lot of foreign factories too, have started operation. We just haven't reached an appropriate scale in the agriculture department yet." Yi Emo waved his hand. "Food is a crucial tactical asset. We must prepare plenty. It's unrealistic to try to produce all we need ourselves. We're spending quite some resources on the upcoming war, and we don't have enough people. So once we start the war, we need to think of ways to earn money from and during it." Earn money from the war? Usually, third parties earn from the wars between two other parties, so how can we earn from our own war? Yi Zifeng wondered. Yi Mo smiled. That won't necessarily be impossible. Our electronic interference system is the best in the world, and no one can match it right now. We can sell that. Even though I haven't experienced modern warfare myself, I know that the focus of it is long-range battle with a great emphasis on accuracy. Fighting someone with a strong electronic interference system and a strong GPS, those countries dependent on electronic warfare would be in for a nightmare. Although we have a small population and are on the disadvantage, numbers can be made up for in modern warfare. We just need to interfere with our enemies' attacks and efficiently locate their units. If our systems really are as strong as Yi Xing says they are, we'll have money to earn. Yi Xing immediately got up to make his point anew. "Marshal brother, one can doubt my popularity with women, but not my ability to build things. Once we have our production line for planes, I will build the strongest electrical interference machine on Earth." Everyone understood Yi Mo's words. He meant that they would show the capabilities of their product in this war, and then sell it to other countries. If Luo Yu's interference machine could interfere with U.S. missiles and other attacks, there was no way it wouldn't become famous. Understanding Yi Mo's idea, Yi Xing quickly shook his head. "This isn't a mobile interference machine, though. We can only station it in Luo Yu, and although it is able to stop any attack from a weapon within 1 kilometer and lock onto the weapon, it does use vast amounts of energy dash. You use the extreme energy stones." Yi Mo immediately understood Yi Xing. Yi Xing smiled bitterly. "I didn't have any other choice. If I didn't make this thing, I wouldn't be able to sleep at night. The power of the U.S. isn't something we can fight against with a mere 2 years of development. I'm sure that as long as we have enough missiles, we can strike down all the weapons they attack us with. Currently, our missiles are all imported from Russia, and even the intercontinental missiles were modified after import. We're still assembling our own missile production line." Yi Mo could understand why Yi Xing had used the stone. Although it was precious, they couldn't just store it and not use it. It seemed like these stones were more precious than spirit stones. Yi Mo sighed. It looked like he would have to go to Northern Sand to get the other 4 as well. "So that means we can't sell our interference system." Yi Mo was disappointed. "Of course we can sell it. We can modify it and change the energy source to fuel. This way, the range would be greatly reduced to only a few hundred meters, but at least then we could attach it to planes." Yi Xing smiled. "Okay, then we'll sell this modified plane idea of yours," Yi Mo said. "That would earn money for sure." "That sounds good, but there are 3 other issues to it. First, the system needs our own engine to operate. Our engine is currently the best in the world. Of course, I can simplify it down, and even the simplified version will shock the world. Second, we don't have a plane production line. Third, if we sell our interference system, it won't take long for it to be analyzed and understood," Yi Xing said. Yi Mo smiled. "I'm not afraid of that. No one can analyze or understand how our Luo Yu seals our pills, as I have the ability to make those things unanalyzable. Likewise, I'll just inscribe a sealing formation at the most important part of the interference machine. That way, if one tries to open the internal structure of the machine, the formation will destroy it. So, we'll do it." CEO Zhang. You can assist Yi Xing in assembling a plane production line. This is very important. Try to import things from other countries and modify it. That'll save some time. Big brother, do you want the countries who intend to buy the interference machine to first admit Luo Yu's independence? Yi Zifeng asked. Yi Mo nodded. He wasn't afraid of the U.S., but if he wanted to survive on Earth, international status was very important. If no country helped him, then no matter how strong Luo Yu was, they wouldn't be able to live well. The U.S. president gathered his cabinet and held a meeting. This was their second time having a meeting due to Luo Yu. Luo Yu took over Sinai and is amassing a population from people all over the world. They are now mass buying weapons. I think that if we weren't so far away from them, their Russian missiles would already be at our feet. I'm regretful about Senator Harry's suggestion to let them develop. The naval commander stood up and said, Luo Yu was massively developing their naval power, and if they were to fight, the first battle would be at sea. I think General Derrick is right. We shouldn't have let Luo Yu develop. We should have attacked Sinai at first notice. I think that now our main task is to attack and take back what is ours, the Minister of Defense said. I think General Derrick is right. We shouldn't have let Luo Yu develop. We should have attacked Sinai at first notice. I think that now our main task is to attack and take back what is ours, the Minister of Defense said. Harry frowned and didn't say anything, but the person next to him did. Harry's decision was right at the time. The reason why we didn't succeed was because those cunning bastards saw through our intentions and used the time we gave them to quickly develop. That's what caused the situation we have today. He's right. I knew a lot of people would see through what we were planning, but I didn't expect the merchants from Luo Yu to be able to see through it. This was my error. Since they already know about our plan, I don't think we need to keep waiting. I suggest we take action immediately, Harry said. I agree. Sinai has countless treasures, including the new element we found. I suggest we immediately take military action and take back Sinai and kick those criminals out. That place doesn't belong to them. Have we been planning for it for decades, only for them to silently take it away? Someone else said, 80% of the people at the meeting agreed to immediately declare war on Sinai. The president frowned. It's not that he didn't want war, but there had been another even bigger discovery. Everyone, I'm also very regretful about Sinai, and this is our fault. But according to the FBI, Luo Yu isn't as simple as we thought. Mr. Leo, please explain the situation. The president looked at a fat white man who was the head of the FBI. Usually he didn't come to these meetings, but he did today, which meant that there was indeed important news for everyone. Leo shook his flab and said seriously, 1 year ago, we sent 5 people to China to retrieve a certain woman from the plane the Black Sun Empire hijacked. Only she knew about our men on the plane, yet a year later, we haven't gotten any news from any of them. None of them ever came back. The men we sent were 4 mutants, one of them even being a level 3 lightning mutant. Leo looked around and continued. Then we found the Black Star island the Black Sun Empire abandoned. This seemed like just some private island, yet we found that that place was their main base for technology. On the island, we found a sealed vault. After testing it, we became certain that it had been meant for the storage of gold, but all the gold was gone. We found some of the most advanced technology on the planet in and around the vault, yet still all the gold had been taken away. I'm sure they didn't do it themselves. They wouldn't have to dig underground and break through walls to access their own gold. Leo, you mean that Luo Yu did that? Someone asked in shock. Leo nodded and said, yes, we suspect them strongly. That chase from the Pacific to the Indian Ocean also seems to have led to Sinai. The president said very seriously, many of you here might not yet know that we lost more than 4,000 tons of gold from our reserves in one night, and the U.S. banks all lost a few $100 million in one night as well. The hole at the site was very smooth, in exactly the same style as the ones we found in the gold vault at the Black Star Island. What? Our gold reserves have been robbed? The meeting room immediately burst into chaos. If Luo Yu really has such a potent weapon, I think it could inflict a huge blow on our Air Force and Navy, Leo said. Before, it was just a suspicion. We also doubted whether Luo Yu could make such a powerful weapon. Perhaps the route of the chase ending close to Sinai was just a coincidence. And although we lost our gold, it didn't have to have been caused by Luo Yu. It wouldn't be easy for anyone to ship away that much gold, much less from a heavily secured fortress. I carefully interrogated every troop that guarded the fort, and it's very unlikely that it was an inside job. The hole was supposedly made from the underground, so I checked the earth there, and there was indeed somewhat of a loosened-up path to the outside. The robber might have used a high-tech way of getting in. In any case, our surveillance systems were tricked and our gold stolen. If this technology really belongs to Luo Yu, then the weapon that sliced the patrol boat might have been made by them too. If their weapons are that advanced, I think we would be facing a very hard battle. Leo, if the FBI suspects Luo Yu, why don't you send people over to investigate? Luo Yu is taking in people from all over the world. Don't tell me you can't get in. Perhaps even I can go in. Harold from the NSA was unhappy. Leo knew how Harold felt and said with a bitter smile, "Remember what I said before? Our mutant department sent 5 members to China to take that woman back. And recently, we sent 57 people to Sinai. Yet again, none of them came back. Other than a few photos of busy construction works, we got nothing back. Aren't you the so-called most powerful investigation bureau in the world?" one senator scorned. Just as the president wanted to say something, a new report was sent to him. After reading it, he immediately got up. "Luo Yu is moving to Sinai, and the citizens from Flowing Snake will also be moving to Sinai. Everyone? Then there's nothing left to say. I suggest we immediately send our mothership and lock Sinai down," the naval commander said. The president obviously agreed, but they still had to make precise battle plans to ensure everything went right. It would be best if the Commonwealth Union could first announce they would investigate Luo Yu and then send its army. That would be much better than the U.S. having to send their army straight away. Harry knew what the president wanted and also got up. "I agree, but we need to contact Ethiopia and Kenya first so that they seal off Luo Yu's retreat on land. I think we should let the Commonwealth Union bring up this battle plan, and then we can form a multinational army. Before we fight, I suggest we tell Luo Yu to move out of Sinai first. Of course, there's no way they would. Although I also support going to war. If Luo Yu really has that weapon of mass destruction, we would be in for some bad luck," someone said. "If they really have the capability to produce such a weapon, then we should only seize Sinai even quicker. It'd be a pleasant gift, just like their pills." Harold smiled. Chinese New Year had just passed when suddenly, in only one night, Flowing Snake returned to being the barren place it had been before. A new round of war broke out in the world. Under the U.S.'s strong requests, the Commonwealth Union gathered a multinational army to kick Luo Yu out of Sinai. The U.S. believed that Luo Yu had taken their land and were bringing great instability to world peace by buying weapons en masse. Every member of the Commonwealth had the responsibility to put in effort for world peace and kick Luo Yu out of Sinai. When this statement was made, the whole world was shocked. Chapter 579. Luo Yu's Stance. Chapter 579. Luo Yu's Stance International Federation was an international organization made up of all the countries in the world, with peacekeeping being just one of its functions. When the U.S. proposed to kick Luo Yu out of Sinai by force, they didn't expect that the International Federation wouldn't completely pass their proposal. Of the 5 greatest countries, China simply passed on voting, but Russia actually voted contra any military action against Luo Yu. As long as there was one vote contra, the proposal couldn't be passed. Like that, the U.S. wouldn't be able to send troops to Sinai blatantly. Russia had only gotten some weapon deals from Luo Yu, though. Were they going to get on the U.S.'s bad side for a few $100 million? It wasn't the Cold War period anymore. There was no need to get on the U.S.'s bad side for a mere Luo Yu who only had 200,000 inhabitants. The way Russia did things was very strange, but 3 days later, because of the U.S.'s strong request, the International Federation held a vote for the second time. And what surprised everyone was that Russia also passed on voting this time. Like that, U.S. could legitimately send an army to Luo Yu. No one knew why the Russians had changed their decision, but that wasn't too important. And a week later, an alliance with the U.S. as the head of it declared war on Luo Yu in the name of freedom and democracy. 26 countries and a total of 120,000 troops, with the U.S.'s army forming 90% of it. Most countries hadn't voted and had sent their troops only after being given some special conditions by the U.S. There were 50,000 ground troops, 30,000 Navy Marines, an Air Force counting 10,000 men, and 30,000 men's worth of special assault squads. There were 380 tanks, 600 armored vehicles, 350 jets, 200 helicopters, and 70 ships. According to the battle plan they had made, the Union Army would come to Sinai from the Indian Ocean. Meanwhile, the ground troops would attack from the border with Ethiopia and Kenya. This would result in 2 battlefields and was called the swing tactic. Its purpose was to make the enemy unable to deal with the attacks on both sides and force them to the middle. They wouldn't be able to get away. And so eventually they would have to surrender. The reason why they used this tactic was because the U.S. didn't want any of Luo Yu's high-level technical personnel to escape. Perhaps surrendering without conditions was the best choice of action for Luo Yu. The day the Union Army was mobilized, the greatest betting organization opened a bet for the war. The bet was on how long it would take for the army to take over Sinai. The odds for Luo Yu winning were 1:100. No one believed Luo Yu would win. So even if the odds were 1:1000, no one would bet on Luo Yu. Yet, randomly, a certain piece of news shocked the world. An anonymous person had bet 500 million on Luo Yu winning. This caught the attention of the media and made Luo Yu and this anonymous person a bit more mysterious. What shocked the world even more was Luo Yu's reaction to the war. Luo Yu declared war on the U.S. Su Yuehua said on Luo Yu's news channel that Luo Yu had nuclear power and was going to test their first warhead close to South Africa. If anyone dared attack Luo Yu wouldn't mind using their nuclear weapons. With Luo Yu's declaration, the U.S. grew furious. They didn't expect Luo Yu to grow this troublesome in such a short while. For some stupid extra gains, they had allowed Luo Yu to grow so strong. At the same time, they were also worried. Even if they could blow Luo Yu to pieces, if Luo Yu dropped even one bomb on their country, it would be catastrophic. The U.S. also suspected that Luo Yu's nukes had been supplied by another country, either China or Russia. The whole world was shocked. Some small countries that had also joined the war were scared. They weren't afraid of the U.S. having nukes, but they sure were afraid of Luo Yu having nukes. If they cornered Luo Yu too hard, Luo Yu really might just throw a nuke at them. Even if Luo Yu was eventually annihilated, they wouldn't be able to handle the losses. 9 countries quickly left the Union. The second day, a huge mushroom cloud appeared, and the world was sunk into silence. Another 5 countries left the Union. Although the amount of soldiers in the army stayed mostly the same, this was a blow to morale. The Union quickly held another meeting. No one thought that some entrepreneurship would be able to obtain nukes in a mere year of development. Although the International Federation requested Luo Yu to participate in the meeting, Luo Yu refused without hesitation. They wouldn't mind coming, but the Federation would have to admit Luo Yu's independence first, and their army would have to retreat. The U.S. was angry. They couldn't possibly retreat. If they were easily scared off by just one nuke, how would they remain the police of the Pacific Ocean? So, what if Luo Yu had nukes? They had them too. We must wipe them clean before they can react, someone ordered. The U.S. government was irate, but the people didn't agree. When they found out that Luo Yu had nukes and had the capability to detonate it from far away, a mass protest began. The people didn't agree to sending the army to the other side of the ocean to invade a new country that had nukes and had nothing to do with the U.S. When the International Federation invited Luo Yu to the meeting once more, Yemo just sneered. This was just like the battles among sects on Luo Yu continent. When a new sect arose, the other sects would gather together to pressure the new sect. If they couldn't get from it what they wanted, they would just annihilate the new sect. But if they went there and found that the sect leader was absurdly powerful, the pressure tactics would be turned into meet and greets. Power, no matter where, no matter when, was still the most important. Mo sighed. He wouldn't even be able to find a peaceful place to live without power. Although Luo Yu requested for the retreat of the Union Army, the order was never made. At the same time, the Union Army undersized lead was in the Indian Ocean already, and it would be half a day before they reached Luo Yu's regional sea. The whole world's attention was gathered on Luo Yu, and by the time it became known that the third meeting had resulted in nothing, the first fleet of the Union Army entered Luo Yu's sea. When the first missile was fired at Luo Yu, the war began. You're tuning into the Mystic Fist YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.